Chapter 1179. Don't be impatient. Zhuo Changlu's eyes were deep as he patted his wife's shoulder. If it's just the heavenly tribulation of the 7 clans, it might be better. At least it's better than the worst outcome I expected. Huh? The worst outcome you expected is worse than this? Xiao Duo has a lot of karma, and most of it is his own doing. He's asking for trouble, and it has nothing to do with anyone. Zhuo Changlu said with a toothache. But what did he do? How did he get involved with so much karma? What did he do? Think about it carefully. He was born in the astral souls, in the Tao League, and he's a peerless genius. The heavenly tribulation of the 2 clans can't be avoided. After that, he took Flood as his adoptive father. Flood is now the top master of the Wu people. Naturally, he's involved with the Umno Alliance's heavenly Tao. This time, he went to the Wu people and received the inheritance of Zhu Wu Zhu Rong. He's inseparable from the Wu people's heavenly Tao. After that, he told us about his relationship with the Spirit Clan and the Demon Clan. I'm afraid there's a lot of karma that we and even he don't know about. In this case, it's the heavenly tribulation of the 5 clans. Even if there's karma between the Spirit Clan and the Demon Clan, the current situation is that the heavenly Tao of the Demon Clan is involved. What do you think? I don't understand this either. But our son has always had a lot of adventures. Maybe he offended the Demon Clan for some reason. Even so, it's only the 6 clans. Where did the karma that belongs to the Western sect come from? You said that he got involved with the Demon Clan for some reason, and I agree. But there hasn't been any information about the Western sect for millions of years. It's not even recorded in the ancient legends. How did they get involved? Wu Yuding's question was also Zhuo Changlu's question. Both of them felt this was too strange. What did their son have to do with the Western sect? Why did the 7 great heavenly Tao gather for no reason? How was he going to let others have a good time? By the way, you said that there are worse possibilities. What could be worse than this? Wu Yuding asked nervously. Zhuo Changlu smiled bitterly. You missed a lot of information about our son, or rather, you didn't care, did you? He was famous in Phoenix City. How could Master's name be false? I don't know where this method of his came from, but the root of his guidance is to deduce the mysteries of heaven. Stealing the heart of heaven as my heart and seeing the future, wouldn't that be forming karma with the heavenly Tao? What's more, he almost reversed the situation and helped Nian resist the huge karma of the Phoenix Pulse Soul. If the most serious situation occurred, the backlash of these 2 karmas would be the most terrifying. Wu Yuding's expression changed again and again. She said in a trembling voice, fortunately, there is only the heavenly tribulation of the 7 races right now. Without the 2 karmas that you set up in advance, there is still a chance. No. There's more. There's more. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding's expressions changed. Their eyes focused and their bodies stiffened. In the eastern sky, a cloud suddenly rushed up, and the cloud formed a golden dragon that suddenly rushed out. In an instant, it circled thousands of miles and covered the sky. At the same time, in the western sky, a 5-colored phoenix spread its wings and flew up. In a moment, the dragon and phoenix turned into a huge whirlpool in the sky above Shangjing. Damn, even the heavenly Tao of the ancient god race is here to join in the fun. Zhuo Changlu's usually calm eyes showed panic for the first time. He even seemed to be gnashing his teeth. Wu Yuding clasped her hands together and scolded, this little bastard is really a troublemaker. How can such a heavenly tribulation be perfect? Looking at the situation now, I'm afraid it's already difficult to survive. Wu Yuding's voice hadn't finished resounding through the air when another tribulation cloud that seemed like a ghastly mist charged swiftly into the sky and converged with the numerous tribulation clouds in the sky. Wu Yuding's expression changed drastically. Zhuo Changlu's body also stiffened instantly. They're all here. It's the 9 great heavenly Tao and the 10 complete lightning tribulations. Zhuo Changlu's face turned pale. My son has created history. But I'm very curious. Where did he get the ability to attract so much karma? A figure flashed and Lei Changtian descended from the sky. My goodness. What did you two give birth to? So many karmic heavenly tribulations. It's going to be smashed into pieces. Looking at the momentum, let alone passing through it perfectly, I'm afraid even the chance of reincarnation will be. Shut up. Wu Yuding fiercely turned her head and looked at her father, roaring fiercely. The demon ancestor's head drooped and he could no longer open his mouth. Just as Wu Yuding, Zhuo Changlu, and Lei Changtian were extremely surprised. In Zhuo Xiaoduo's void-destroying pagoda. The Huahuang sword appeared in the air with a clang. Sword light shot out in all directions, and demon aura rose. With a whoosh, it rushed out of the space and entered Zhuo Xiaoduo's divine soul. The god-slaying spear Yan Shirsi followed closely behind. Demonic flames soared and turned into a black fog, flashing away. Bai and Jiu jumped a few times and also jumped out. Xiao Zhao's 3 legs jumped up and down, and with a whoosh, it turned into a flame. The dragon of luck Xiaolong, who rarely appeared in front of people, also came out from the mountains. He flew up silently and hurriedly. The super heavenly tribulation that made the Zhuo couple worried and terrified was about to happen. However, the person involved, Zhuo Xiaoduo, didn't know that a calamity was about to befall him. He didn't even know that his godson and whatnot were moving out together. He only felt various kinds of enlightenment in his mind. Immediately, he entered a state of enlightenment where he forgot about everything around him. Fortunately, the whole process only lasted for a short minute. However, there were too many kinds of enlightenment, and they all rushed into his mind at the same time. His head swelled uncomfortably as if it was about to explode. Unable to bear the burden, he immediately woke up. When his mind regained its clarity, Zhuo Xiaoduo was shocked to discover that the true essence in his body had already shown signs of going berserk. At this stage, even if he had the help of a transcendent cultivator to suppress it, or even some miraculous spirit medicine, it would be of no use. He had to face this breakthrough, the breakthrough to the Skysoar realm. A power that could topple mountains and overturn seas rushed towards the flying heavens pass like a hot knife through butter. Originally, he had already touched the door and could break through the barrier with just a light touch. However, at this moment, it was like an impenetrable and unbreakable wall. Zhuo Xiaoduo thought that he would succeed naturally, but something unexpected happened. He was surprised to see that on the other side of the Skysoar realm, there was a mixture of different colors. What's going on? Before Zhuo Xiaoduo could figure out what was going on, the pressure in the sky came down on him. The true origin in his body suddenly burst out. Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that his insides were burning. He couldn't control himself and shouted, "Dad! I'm going to break through." Before his voice died away, Zhuo Changlu, who had been paying attention to his son's every move, suddenly appeared beside him. He grabbed his son's neck and disappeared with a whoosh. Then, Lei Changtian followed closely. Bai Yunduo flew under the clouds, and Wu Yuding took Zhuo Xiaonian and broke through the sky. Zhuo Changlu was so fast that the father and son were already at the top of the Broken Soul Cliff in the blink of an eye. Zhuo Changlu suddenly let go of Zhuo Xiaoduo, and Zhuo Xiaoduo fell on the cliff. Put on the protective gear your mother gave you and prepare all the medicine you need. Swallow a few pills with the tip of your tongue first. There's something fishy about this flying tribulation. You have to deal with it with all your might. Don't be careless. Zhuo Changlu said in a deep voice. Yes. Don't forget the key points I told you. Deal with it carefully. Wu Yuding's voice also came. Like the evening drum and morning bell, she reminded Zhuo Xiaoduo of all the things she reminded him. Once again, she imprinted them into Zhuo Xiaoduo's spirit seat with the method of divine sense empowerment. I remember, Mom. Don't worry. Zhuo Xiaoduo shouted with difficulty. Immediately, he calmed down and dealt with the surging true origin. He tried to restrain it and guide it into the right direction. In a moment, the 10 huge whirlpools in the sky came to the top of his head again. From the slow rotation to the fast rotation, the intense rotation. Then, it was almost impossible to see clearly. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, the huge spiritual energy in all directions was sucked dry by the 10 tribulation eyes in the sky in an instant. There was not a drop left. The indifferent heavens might came down mightily. The great Tao was ruthless, and karma was reincarnation. This guy dared to defy the heavens. He must be scorched on the outside and tender on the inside. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding stood 100 miles away, one in the east and one in the west. Even though the couple had high cultivation, at this moment, they did not dare to make the slightest move. Half of their attention was focused on their son, and the other half was focused on the periphery to eliminate the possibility of external interference from outside the heaven realm. Zhuo Xiaonian and Wu Yuding were on the side. One of their hands was tightly clasped on Wu Yuding's arm, and they looked extremely nervous. Lei Changtian and Bai Yun Duo were in the north and south respectively. They were also on high alert. This lineup of guardians was a little scary. With the 4 of them protecting him, even if the 12 great shamans and the 7 swords of the Tao League attacked together, Zhuo Xiao Duo would be safe and sound for a while. However, the 4 of them were all experts in cultivation. How could they not know that the key point of their defense was not the destruction of any enemies in the world, but the evil hidden behind every tribulation thunder during the tribulation? A perfect breakthrough was easier said than done. Since ancient times, even the heavens were not perfect. If Zhuo Xiaoduo wanted to break through the boundary between man and heaven with a perfect posture, he would definitely attract the greatest evil in the world. Yes, at this moment, even the heavenly Tao was jealous of Zhuo Xiaoduo. The jealousy of the whole world. There was not a single cultivator who was not jealous. The wrath of the heavenly Tao was a natural disaster that could be vented through the tribulation thunder. After the natural disaster, there were also man-made disasters. After the tribulation thunder, the aftershocks would attract the resentment of countless cultivators. They would surround Zhuo Xiaoduo from all sides and surge in like a gust of wind. As long as they rushed in and landed on Zhuo Xiaoduo, they would form an inner demon. Once the inner demon was formed, it would not be a perfect breakthrough. And Zhuo Changlu and the others had to cut off all the inner demons from invading, begging for monthly votes at midnight. Chapter 1180. Of the 4 people that Zhuo Changlu found, Zhuo Changlu, his wife, and the demon ancestor Lei Changtian, naturally didn't have to worry about the so-called inner demons. They were purely family. However, Bai Yun Fairy and Bai Yun Duo were still not completely at ease. Because such a perfect breakthrough, even Bai Yun Duo, who had reached the heavenly king stage, might be jealous. However, they couldn't find a more suitable 4th person at the moment. The Flood Witch's state of mind cultivation was naturally competent. However, if they had to call the flood over for today's matter, it was a little inexcusable. Well, Zhuo Changlu also didn't expect the situation to change like this. In the end, he still underestimated the extent of the trouble that Zhuo Xiaoduo caused. He actually caused such a huge karma and the heavenly tribulation of the 9 clans. He really didn't expect it. Suddenly, the 10 whirlpools of clouds in the sky pressed down from a height of 10,000 meters. The heavenly tribulation was pressing down, and death was imminent. This sense of déjà vu made Zhuo Xiaonian, the 5th protector, turn pale all of a sudden. The heavenly tribulation seemed to be about 1,000 meters away from Zhuo Xiaoduo. Well, to put it more accurately, it was 999 meters, at the moment when the heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly pressed down. Or it should be said that at the moment when Zhuo Changlu suddenly flew here with Zhuo Xiaoduo, under the Death Soul Cliff. The huge demonic beast flashed half of its head out of the cave with a face full of panic. Its 2 big eyes were full of panic and indescribable grievance and depression. Is that so? Mom. How did this thing get on top of my head? Isn't this like a beast sitting at home, and disaster comes from the sky? The monster was extremely depressed. It was almost going crazy. How could it be like this? Just now, when it sensed that there was such a huge heavenly tribulation far away, the demonic beast had been gloating in its heart and almost laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, let's see who can survive such a ferocious heavenly tribulation. He he he. It's a pity that I can't go and watch the show. It's really a pity. Who would have thought that before he could gloat over his misfortune, this heavenly tribulation would actually appear above his head as if it had grown legs? I haven't left this place for hundreds of thousands of years. Can't you have some conscience? All these years, I haven't even heard an earthworm. Why is that? Since ancient times, ever since I was born, I have been known as the god of disaster. Wherever I go, there will be disasters. I'm the true star of misfortune. But what was going on today? Whose luck was so strong? She had actually become my unlucky star. If you want to transcend the tribulation, can't you find somewhere else? A better place? Do you have to transcend the tribulation on my head? Are you crazy? Feeling the vast heavenly might crashing down on it, the demonic beast began to cry. Spare my life. Please don't get me involved. Slowly. Using the slowest speed possible, it slowly retracted its head, retracted all of its aura, and retracted all of its divine sense. Don't notice me. Please don't notice me. It prayed continuously in its heart. It was so scared that saliva flowed out of its mouth, continuously dripping down, washing the tattered person beside it. It couldn't be blamed for being a coward. The main reason was that the place where Zhuo Xiaoduo was transcending the tribulation was right above its head. As long as the heavenly Tao discovered its existence, it would immediately regard it as the existence that destroyed the tribulation. At that time, the tribulation would immediately increase its strength. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was transcending the tribulation above, would definitely not be lucky, and this fellow below would definitely not be spared either. Even if Zhuo Xiaoduo was struck into ashes, the tribulation would definitely not stop. Instead, it would not stop until this fellow was also struck into ashes. What kind of monster is transcending the tribulation? Even the tribulation of becoming a sage since ancient times does not have such 9 heavenly Tao and 10 complete lightning tribulations. What the fuck? The monster was so scared that its heart was about to spasm. I'm so wronged. I'm so wronged. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that the spiritual energy that he had just restrained and suppressed had once again erupted. It flowed along his meridians at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had already completed 99 cycles. Then, it brazenly charged towards the sky barrier. Zhuo Xiaoduo's thoughts flashed. He quickly put on the waistcoat made from the skin of a heavenly king-level demon beast, then put on his jacket, coat, leather shoes, helmet, and stretched his legs to stretch his arms and legs. Then, he directly stuffed a whole bottle of elixirs that Wu Yuding gave him directly into his mouth. Only then did he have time to look up at the clouds in the sky that seemed to be within reach. Suddenly, an extremely curious and great sense of accomplishment arose in his heart. This is my first time transcending the tribulation, but such a big scene. Doesn't this prove my great achievement? This is really too awesome. I, Zhuo Xiaoduo, am the awesome class. No one before and no one after, I, Zhuo Xiaoduo. Master Zhuo. Iron Fist Prince. Crystal Cat, Zhuo Xiaoduo. Roar. Only 2 words can describe me. Awesome. Thinking of his physiognomy, his parents didn't have any intention of losing their child in their middle age. Hehe, my manifestation technique has never failed. This time will be no exception. It will definitely be safe. With this thought in mind, he became even more complacent and proud of himself. He actually struck a flirtatious pose and hooked his finger at the 10 vortexes in the sky. He shook his buttocks and shouted, "Come and chop me, come and chop me. Don't provoke me. When Wu Yuting saw this scene, black lines immediately appeared on her forehead. This bastard actually dared to provoke the heavens at such a time. You're already dangerous enough, do you know that? Why? If this guy wasn't transcending the tribulation, Wu Yuting would definitely rush over and beat him up, or even 10 or 100 times. Even if you want to die, you don't have to do this. Do you know? In the sky, following Zhuo Xiaoduo's clamor, the vortex cloud cluster in the middle suddenly stopped spinning. Then, a thin, blazing white lightning struck down directly. Facing the imminent tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's expression was calm and at ease. He didn't move, and the raging fire which helmet on his head had automatically withstood this tribulation lightning. This helmet, which originated from the raging fire which, was not only unique in texture, but also most compatible with Zhuo Xiaoduo. Although the initial lightning tribulation seemed to be powerful, it was still the beginning of the lightning tribulation, and its power was limited. If it took a lot of effort to deal with this lightning tribulation, or even a lot of energy, then there was no need to transcend the following lightning tribulations, and he could just wait for death. With the help of the raging fire witch helmet, he resisted the power of the initial lightning tribulation, and the powerful aftermath of the power spread in all directions. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt an inexplicable force rushing into his body, and integrated with the primordial fire vital spirit all over his body. This force did not belong to him, nor was it the feedback force of the raging fire witch helmet. It was a feeling that was very weak, but very clear, and contained a unique feeling of Taoist connotation. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt the blissful benefits of being a second-generation top-notch cultivator. Under the protection of the great Inferno Witch's helmet, he didn't feel the slightest bit of vibration, and there wasn't even the slightest bit of injury. It was simply, completely receiving the benefits. This was the correct way to transcend the heavenly tribulation. Comfortable. 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 If so, let the benefits come more fiercely. Let the heavenly tribulation come more fiercely. The heavenly tribulation is nothing more than this. Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed wildly, laughing like a fool, very arrogant. Don't provoke me. Zhuo Chenglu followed in the footsteps of Wu Yuting, and he was also speechless. This guy really didn't know what was good for him. Under the eyes of the heavenly tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo was majestic and fearless. He laughed and stood at the highest point of the mountain, motionless, with his clothes fluttering, waiting for the heavenly tribulation to come. This was the first time in Zhuo Xiaoduo's life to experience the heavenly tribulation. With the support of countless resources and materials, in his view, the heavenly tribulation was nothing to be afraid of at all. It was just a simple gift of benefits. This would be the first time in his life as a top second-generation cultivator to win without doing anything. As a result, he couldn't wait for the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. Then, one after another, the tribulation thunder fell from the different eyes of the heavenly tribulation and fell on Zhuo Xiaoduo's body and head. Zhuo Xiaoduo was in an extremely arrogant posture, motionless, arrogant, and insufferably arrogant. Well, in his bones, he was carefully chewing the weak but clear special Taoist connotation. When to do something, Zhuo Xiaoduo still had a deep understanding of it. Lei Changtian yelled in the distance, "Kid, why don't you hide? At least show some respect to the heavens." Before his voice died away, the first round of tribulation thunder had passed. However, the end of the initial tribulation meant that the more intense second tribulation was coming. The tribulation eye in the middle suddenly lit up, and a tribulation thunder as thick as a bucket fell with a boom. Zhuo Chenglu and Wu Yuting's eyes widened at the sight. Damn, the second tribulation is already so fierce. Shouldn't it come step by step? Is there a way out for us? According to Zhuo Chenglu and his wife's estimation, a tribulation thunder of this level should at least be at the fourth or fifth tribulation. But now, it was actually at the second tribulation. Damn it! For a moment, they couldn't help but feel more worried. Zhuo Xiaoduo's heavenly tribulation was different from that of ordinary people. Ordinary people only needed to go through one tribulation to cross the limit between man and heaven and reach the Skysoar realm. However, Zhuoxiaoduo's perfect breakthrough required him to go through 10 lightning tribulations. Comparing the two, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Not to mention other things, just the last tribulation, thunder of destruction, was enough for ordinary people to survive one wave. However, Zhuoxiaoduo still needed to survive 9 waves of tribulation, thunder of destruction, and each wave was more violent than the previous one. Just thinking about it made Wu Yuding feel a little suffocated. My duo dog. Why is this kid so pitiful? The most pitiful thing is, this bastard still doesn't know anything. His momentary complacency led to his arrogance and provocation. You'll never know what you're provoking. When you know, you'll regret it very much. Son. You reckless little dog, I really want to rush up and beat you up. Chapter 1181. Rumble. The tribulation lightning struck once again. Zhuoxiaoduo held his head high and puffed out his chest, proudly welcoming it, just like before. But this time, with a loud explosion, Zhuoxiaoduo felt as if his head was hit by a 1,000-soul nightmare hammer. A sense of dizziness rose from the depths of his soul, and he couldn't help but shake his head. The powerful force penetrated the top of his head and rushed all the way down. Crack. Under his feet, the pair of boots made of heavenly king-level demon beast skin had been torn apart. And above his head, the raging fire witch helmet that had withstood the initial tribulation with its own strength and was completely undamaged was now charred black. If the helmet had a spirit, it would have been cursing at this moment. I'm awesome and my defense is strong, but I can't just stand there and be beaten up like this. This is a fucking heavenly tribulation. Since ancient times, I've never seen anyone provoke a heavenly tribulation. Today is really an eye-opener. This sentence is suitable for anyone, including Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding. Fuck. Zhuoxiaoduo saw that the situation was not right, and he began to feel a little scared. This development is a little wrong. On the way here, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding patiently explained the severity of this heavenly tribulation to him again and again. Unfortunately, although Zhuoxiaoduo was more alert, he still didn't pay enough attention to it, especially when the raging fire witch helmet performed so well during the initial tribulation. But this tribulation lightning made him sober up a lot. This is still different from my expectation of winning by lying down. It seems that I can't just stand there and be struck, I have to do something else. Zhuoxiaoduo's thoughts turned, and the 99-cat hammer suddenly appeared in his hand. How dare you strike me, heavenly tribulation, I'll fight it out with you. Zhuoxiaoduo's thinking was different from dodging. He was prepared to fight it head-on. He felt that he could win. Many years later, I'll hug Nian Nian and give birth to a group of milky babies and brag, back then, your father was also someone who resisted the heavenly tribulation head-on. He had even thought about his tone and posture when the time came. Imagining the adoring gazes of the children, he seemed to hear tender calls in his ears. Children, Papa is so powerful. Zhuoxiaoduo felt like he was floating in the air. Rumble. The next heavenly tribulation lightning descended from the heavens, its might even greater than before. Go away. Zhuoxiaoduo was full of vigor. He pointed his hammer at the sky and used the most elegant posture to fiercely attack. Boom! Lei Chengtian covered his eyes with one hand, his heart filled with emotions. I've never bowed down to anyone except for Zhuo. But today, there's a second one. But I never thought that the second one would be Zhuo's son. He really had guts. Ever since there were cultivators in the world, no one had ever dared to go against the tribulation lightning. He had always dodged and dodged. Only when he could no longer dodge would he bear the brunt of it. Speaking of taking out a weapon to confront the heavenly tribulation head-on. This was truly unprecedented. This fellow in front of him was truly the first person to create a new world. You really aren't afraid of anything. Zhuo Changlu and the other 4 watched as Zhuoxiaoduo raised his 2 hammers and collided with the tribulation lightning in a fearless manner. Suddenly, the entire night sky seemed to have been set off by an enormous firework. Endless overflowing electric light rushed in all directions like an explosion in the starry sky. Zhuo Xiaoduo's counterattack had actually gained the upper hand. When he felt the itchy feeling again, the clear Taoist connotation from before flowed into his body again. It was extremely comfortable. Zhuo Xiaoduo succeeded in his attack and continued to point his hammer at the sky, assuming an invincible posture. He was really handsome and elegant. He laughed loudly and said, "Awesome. Again. Again. I've found another way to deal with the heavenly tribulation. So awesome." Jiu Mao, who had just been baptized by the tribulation lightning, shot out electric light from her right hammer. Another electric light came crashing down. She raised the hammer in her left hand and smashed it down again. Then, the left hammer also shot out electric light in all directions. It was extremely gorgeous. Bolts of tribulation lightning fell one after another. Zhuo Xiaoduo was getting more and more excited. He let out a long howl and flew into the air to intercept the tribulation lightning. He hammered left, hammered right, and hammered once more. Boom, boom, boom. The entire night sky was like someone was constantly setting off magnificent fireworks. Furthermore, the fireworks were tens of thousands of times bigger than the usual fireworks. Looking at Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was busy and excited, Lei Changtian was speechless. "Kid, you're just doing it. Do you really think that the heavenly Tao has no feelings, and won't get angry? You're wrong, little dog. You're so wrong. The tribulation lightning is just playing with you step by step. If it really wants to kill you, you'll be reduced to ashes with one strike of the divine thunder of annihilation. Look at how lively and cute you are dancing. The second wave of tribulation lightning had finished with 10 strikes of tribulation lightning. Zhuo Xiaoduo was still unscathed. He even felt that his body was more solid than before. The real essence in his body was more condensed and vigorous. Traces of impurities that even the 9 heavens' spiritual spring water couldn't expel were being forced out of his skin under the constant baptism of the tribulation lightning. The real essence in his body continued to rumble. There was endless spiritual qi between heaven and earth flowing into his meridians. The real qi was so abundant that it was about to explode. If he didn't find a way to vent it out, he might really explode because he couldn't bear it anymore. At this time, the tribulation lightning fell one after another, providing Zhuo Xiaoduo with a channel to vent it out. Under the gaze of Zhuo Changlu and the others, the third wave of tribulation lightning came as expected. It fell like an avalanche. This wave of tribulation lightning was still as thick as a bucket, no different from the second wave of tribulation lightning. However, Zhuo Changlu and the others had good eyesight, so how could they not see the difference? Inside the tribulation lightning, it was clear that its strength had increased. The flickering light inside showed that its strength had increased by at least twofold. Zhuo Xiaoduo was still holding the 9-9 kitty hammer in his hand. He continued to jump up and down, fighting heroically against the tribulation lightning. In the flickering lightning, a man with 2 hammers was fighting against the heavens. What a heroic spirit! Damn! Little doggy is so cool. After the initial nervousness and the previous wave of tribulation lightning with 2 hammers, Zhuo Xiaonian was relieved. At this moment, her eyes were flashing red, and her hands were clasped in front of her heart. Looking at her, it was obvious that she was enchanted. I love him so much. The man of my dreams, my man, dares to fight against the heavens, and he's not at a disadvantage at all. He's so handsome. For a moment, Zhuo Xiaonian felt very safe. She didn't have to worry about the heavens and earth. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo's handsome hammer smashed another tribulation lightning. In the midst of the lightning and thunder, that handsome figure, that handsome posture. So handsome. Zhuo Xiaonian's eyes twinkled. Hee hee. Wu Yuding glanced at her daughter from the corner of her eyes. Handsome. Then take a closer look. This little doggy is courting death. How long can he be handsome for? Anyway, as his mother, I really don't think he's going to succeed. But I can rest assured that the perfect tribulation lightning should be gone because of this little doggie's courting death. But his life wouldn't be in any danger. After all, the heavenly Tao array was waiting for him here. He couldn't die. Sigh, this is considered a success. We were too greedy in the first place. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Changlu looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. In this world, there was no such thing as a perfect tribulation. They were thinking too much. Moreover, even if it was a perfect tribulation lightning, after this little doggie's provocation, it probably wouldn't be perfect anymore. Even a clay figurine would be uncouth, let alone the heavenly Tao that controlled all things. The heavenly Tao had always been good at dealing with all kinds of things. At the bottom of the broken soul cliff, the monster was trembling all over. Originally, in the 3 continents of the witchcraft Tao and the astral souls, there were very few things that could make him afraid. However, due to his understanding of the tribulation lightning and his innate fear, the fear in his heart soared to the extreme. The fact that a heavenly tribulation had come from above was already frightening enough. What was even more unexpected was that it was a 10 heavenly tribulation. If it was just a 10 heavenly tribulation, it would be fine. As the person who was going through the tribulation lightning, he should be fine and obediently go through the tribulation lightning. Even if it was just a 10 heavenly tribulation, it wouldn't be good. However, who would have thought, that the person who was going through the tribulation lightning was actually a lunatic? Damn it. Spare me, I really can't take it anymore. I haven't been struck to death by the tribulation lightning, but I'm going to be scared to death by the lunatic above. Fighting against the tribulation lightning. He's actually going against the tribulation lightning head-on. Can you be any more courting death? I've had enough. After hiding for so many years, I actually met such a lunatic. Honorable Tao ancestor above, I really didn't do it on purpose. Please understand. Please, you must be clear about this. I've been sleeping here all this while. I was just sleeping, and this fellow took the initiative to go through the tribulation lightning on my bed. Woo-woo. It's really not my fault. I'm really innocent. I know I shouldn't be trembling. But I can't stop. Spare me. I'll be more honest in the future. I'll sleep here in the future, and I promise I won't snore anymore. Please believe me. Zhuo Xiaoduo was able to control the tribulation lightning as if it was his own arm. In addition, he had survived the 3rd round of tribulation lightning. His posture was still as cool as ever, and his attitude was still as calm as ever. The tribulation lightning is a kind of baptism, to some extent. If I can get through it, there will be endless benefits. Zhuo Xiaoduo did not know about other things, but the endless benefits. Zhuo Xiaoduo had already felt it. As expected, the tribulation lightning was a gift from the heavens. That's great. This feeling makes me want to stop. Zhuo Xiaoduo stood upright with 2 hammers in his hands. He looked up at the sky and roared, full of vigor. I, Zhuo Xiaoduo, have given up on the mortal world, fame, and dust, and walked millions of miles of clouds and moon. Finally, I've reached this moment. One more step, and I'll become a saint. Don't be idle, your young years are white and you're sad. Tribulation lightning, don't be idle, don't wait. Come quickly. The 4th round of tribulation lightning, come quickly. Masters was big hammers are thirsty for it. When other people went through the tribulation lightning, they would say that they had survived the 3rd tribulation lightning. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo. Which round was he in? Round. When placed here, this word could be said to have an exceptional spirituality and smoothness. Chapter 1182. Rumble, Kacha. The anticipated 4th round of lightning tribulation came as scheduled. From the 4th round onwards, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt the pressure for the first time. The lightning tribulation still looked as thick as before, but the color inside was getting darker. The colorful light inside was getting brighter and brighter, more and more flickering. Through the confrontation perception, the power of each lightning tribulation was more than 10 times stronger than the previous 3 rounds. Zhuo Xiaoduo still held the cat hammer in his hand to confront it head-on. Every lightning tribulation was a tough collision, just like before. But Zhuo Xiaoduo clearly felt that. He was afraid that he could not hold on for long. Obviously, the huge spiritual power from the outside world was still pouring into his body, but every time he resisted the lightning tribulation, it consumed an unusually large amount of spiritual power. The spiritual power in his body, which was originally full of vitality, was being consumed at such a high intensity, and gradually showed signs of being unable to continue. Zhuo Xiaoduo wanted to use the 3 elixirs under his tongue and the elixir that he had already swallowed and wrapped in spiritual power. But now, it was not the time yet. It was not the most dangerous time yet, so he could not use it. That was a trump card. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo could not help but reflect. What he was doing now. Was it a little too big? However, looking at the protection on his body, he immediately felt relieved. The protection was basically complete. Except for a pair of boots that had been torn apart, the rest could still hold up. Especially the helmet of the Great Fire, which, its compatibility was really unusually compatible with himself. After being infused with his primordial fire real qi, it became even more solid. In this way, he still had a lot of confidence, but he did not know if he could resist the remaining lightning tribulations. Zhuo Xiaoduo did not have a hard time dealing with the 4th round of lightning tribulation. The 5th round of lightning tribulation was not much stronger than the 4th round. It was a little difficult to deal with it, but the consumption of spiritual power was more severe. However, in the 6th round, the intensity was twice as high as the 5th round. Zhuo Xiaoduo spent a lot of energy to get through the 6th round. He felt that if the intensity continued to increase, he would be able to get through the 6th round unscathed. Although it consumed a lot of energy, the baptism of the several rounds of tribulation thunder allowed him to experience the comprehension of the Taoist connotation one after another, which made great progress in his cultivation realm. With his equipment, combined with his own strength, and the little guys who had yet to assist him, he really didn't feel much pressure. So, what's the big deal? Thinking of this, Zhuo Xiaoduo could not help but feel smug. Ha ha ha. That's all there is to it. After 6 rounds, Zhuo Xiaoduo looked up to the sky and laughed. After the 6th round of tribulation lightning, the wind and clouds gathered in the sky. The 10 tribulation eyes rotated slowly, but no new tribulation lightning fell. Seeing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt even more relieved. He thought to himself, is it over? Didn't they say there would be 9 rounds? Zhuo Chenglu's sound transmission came in time. Special types of heavenly tribulations usually progress in 3 rounds. The first 3 rounds of tribulation thunder are not very different from each other. Almost all cultivators can withstand it and use it to strengthen their bodies. The middle 3 rounds are to strengthen their bones. If you can get through it, you will benefit a lot. However, the last 3 rounds, starting from the 7th, are all thunder of annihilation. If you are not careful, not only will your body be destroyed, but your divine soul will also be destroyed, and you will be doomed eternally. You can't be careless. You have to be more careful. Use all your defenses. Take out all the heavenly treasures that can be used. Put them in your Godfather's ring. After the 8th round, use all the things that can be used and eat all the things that can be eaten. Because in the 9th round of heavenly tribulations, you won't have a chance to open the space ring. Even if you hide in the Tower of Annihilation, the power of the tribulation lightning will increase by 1,000 times and destroy the tower directly. There is no way to escape. You have to face it head-on. Hiss. Hearing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo shuddered and sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, the eye of tribulation in the sky stopped rotating. It was obvious that the 7th round of tribulation thunder was coming. Between heaven and earth, there was a sudden flash of light. A bolt of tribulation thunder broke through the sky. It was a new accumulation of tribulation thunder from before. It was brightly colored with white light and there was a trace of purple gas lingering in it. The purple light wandered on top of the tribulation thunder, and then it came crashing down. This tribulation thunder was as thick as a water tank. It was like a big stick that reached the sky and the earth, and it came crashing down fiercely. Not only was this sudden, but it was also much faster than before. It was so fast that Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't have time to swing his hammer. He only had time to raise it, and the tribulation thunder hit the 99 kitty hammer. Boom! The whole earth trembled because of this hit. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt dizzy. An unprecedentedly strong force came crashing down on him. His whole body was like a piling, and he was directly wedged into the hard stone layer by more than 10 meters. A hammer smashing a nail. And Zhuo Xiaoduo was that nail. The 99 kitty hammer. It was the nail's hat. Zhuo Xiaoduo remembered Zhuo Changlu's words. He didn't dare to be careless. As soon as the force disappeared, he jumped out of the big hole, opened his mouth, and spat out a long line of black smoke. Damn! Zhuo Xiaoduo was a little scared. That hit just now was basically all of his strength. But now, this was only the 7th round that he tried to circulate the spiritual energy in his body, but he still didn't swallow the 3 pills in his mouth. He also didn't unwrap the one wrapped in spiritual energy in his stomach. He couldn't refine it easily. This was his trump card, a trump card to turn the tables. At least for now, he couldn't use it. If he was forced to use it now, it would be over. Another white and purple bolt of tribulation lightning fell with a loud rumble. Zhuo Xiaoduo was once again wedged more than 10 meters into the ground. After the 7th round of 10 tribulation thunder, Zhuo Xiaoduo's whole body was in tatters. His coat had been blown away, leaving only a pair of shorts and a vest on his upper body. The Inferno Witch's helmet was the worst. It was completely turned into ashes and fell on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. From head to toe, there was black smoke steaming everywhere. He breathed through his nostrils and opened his mouth to exhale. What came out was also black. Tut tut tut. It felt like a tractor burning its tank. It's about to be the 8th round. Wu Yuding, Zhuo Changlu, and the other 2 suppressed all the space around them with their huge divine senses. And it was the kind of suppression that suppressed even the space. So much so that before the surging evil thoughts could reach them, they were directly crushed between heaven and earth by the 4 of them, not leaving a single drop behind. At the right time, a rainbow fell from the sky. It came extremely fast, leaving a trail of dazzling light wherever it passed. The reason why it was called a rainbow was because this lightning actually contained extremely clear 9 colors. It included red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, and black colors. This was 9 tribulation thunder. 9 different heavenly Tao mixed together to form a different kind of tribulation thunder. Cough, not the 9th round. This tribulation thunder's volume was visible to the naked eye, reaching up to 5 meters in diameter. At this moment, it was as if a solid pillar suddenly fell from the heavens, smashing down on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head with the force of a mountain. Yes, it was smashed. Yes, or should it be smashed? There was a poem about this situation. Just as Buddha turned his hand, the monkey was pressed down on the 5 elements mountain. There was no need to ask about the cause and effect, it was only because he was too arrogant at that time. Zhuo Xiaoduo only had time to let out a good boy sound. The moment the strength flowed into his arms, he forcefully raised the hammers in both hands, resisting the huge tribulation thunder with one hand in front and one behind. With a loud explosion, the tribulation thunder had already smashed on the right hammer of the 99 cat hammer. The hammer in the right hand seemed to have no resistance at all, and it was pressed down in the opposite direction. Immediately, it smashed on the hammer in the left hand, making an earth-shattering sound. Then, The two hammers on the left and right turned upside down, smashing down on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. Zhuo Xiaoduo's reaction was lightning fast. He retracted his head in time and didn't get hit on the head by the two hammers. However, he still couldn't avoid being hit by the two hammers on both sides of his shoulders. Burp. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that his whole body was about to explode. The Vajra iron bones were also forcefully pressed into the mountain rocks by the boundless might of the tribulation lightning. An inexplicable aura suddenly surged into his internal organs. It was colorful and filled with all kinds of destructive power. In short, it was a mixed feeling. All of Zhuo Xiaoduo's internal organs were swollen from the wind. In an instant, the remaining heavenly king-level demonic beast fur on his body was all turned into ashes by this tribulation thunder. Zhuo Xiaoduo was completely naked from head to toe, not a single hair was left. Clean and slippery. Yes, it was clean and slippery all over, which was even more unsightly. However, the substantial nine-colored tribulation thunder above his head hadn't completely disappeared yet. It was still smashing down with a ton sound. It was like a person who had been holding it in for a long time and finally found a chance to vent hysterically. It was desperately smashing down, full of a certain kind of pleasure. I smash. I smash. I smash, smash, smash. In the distance. Zhuo Changlu and the other four people who were watching this scene watched the tribulation thunder fall from the sky with a blank expression. 7 colors, solemn and inviolable, it smashed down just like that. There was only a clear and melodious sound that spread in all directions. Zhuo Xiaoduo was like a red-hot nail being slammed into frozen white oil. He disappeared with a whoosh. That tribulation thunder didn't stop. It was like a substantial giant hammer, smashing down on the mountain top with a loud bang. It pierced through the heavens and the earth, shining with 9 colors. Then something even more unbelievable and unimaginable happened. This tribulation thunder was like a pile driver that had found a place to vent. Pulled up, boom. Fell down. Pulled up, boom. Fell down. Pulled up again. Boom. It was like there was an ancient immortal god in the sky, holding a huge colorful hammer, smashing down in extreme anger, gnashing his teeth as he smashed. As the tribulation thunder continued to smash down as if venting its anger, Zhuo Changlu, Wu Yuding, Lei Changtian, Bai Yunduo, Zhuo Xiaonian. The 5 of them were in a daze. Their eyebrows were twitching wildly, the muscles at the corners of their eyes were twitching, and the corners of their mouths were twitching. This. How was this tribulation thunder? This was simply venting its anger. How did we offend you? As for this. They could even feel a clear sense of resentment, and that was, who asked you to be cheap? Who asked you to be cheap? Who asked you to be cheap? Chapter 1183. Boom boom boom. The 9-colored tribulation lightning smashed down 36 times in a frenzied and hysterical manner, smashing Zhuo Xiaoduo down 600 meters from where he was standing on the ground. Moreover, there were no cracks on the surrounding rocks. Finally, its power was exhausted, and it disappeared with a puff. Xiaoduo. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Wu Yuding called out worriedly. Before she could finish her sentence, a completely charred, naked thing rushed out from the huge crater created by the tribulation lightning. This thing's entire body was filled with the smell of being barbecued. Streaks of 9-colored light flickered on his body, slithering around like spirit snakes. She was a pregnant woman who was at least 10 months pregnant, and her belly was as big as triplets. Puff. Zhuo Xiaoduo finally breathed a sigh of relief. He opened his mouth and spat out a colorful aura. Well, there were also burnt ashes mixed in. As he spat out this breath. A certain charcoals, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 2 eyes. All of them spewed out rainbow aura. After that, his lower body couldn't help but let out a loud cry. The front part of his body spewed out rainbow aura like a long dragon, and the back part, he stuck out his butt. A very thick rainbow aura spewed out from his indescribable part. Because the 9 orifices on his body continuously spewed out rainbow aura at the same time, the subject naturally and unnaturally assumed a strange posture of sticking out his chest and sticking out his butt. For a long time, he kept puffing out rainbow aura. The rainbow aura that he spewed out condensed and rushed out for dozens of meters. Oh my God! Wu Yuting turned her face away, unable to bear the sight. Bai Yunduo also turned her back with an embarrassed expression that she couldn't bear to watch. She really couldn't bear to watch. Wu Yuting looked to her side with a twisted face, only to see Zhuo Xiaonian blushing. She covered her eyes with her hands shyly, but her fingers were spread open, and her 2 rolling eyeballs stared unblinkingly. Slap. Wu Yuting covered Zhuo Xiaonian's eyes with one hand. Stop looking. Do you want to wash your eyes? On the other side. Lei Changtian and Zhuo Changlu each had a mobile phone in their hands. They used their magical powers to bring the situation before their eyes. Obviously, they were recording this moment of the century. This was an extremely precious video. On the screen, Zhuo Xiaoduo was stretching his neck, tilting his head, puffing out his chest, and sticking his butt up high. His eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and lower body were constantly spewing out rainbows. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was almost stiff, and it couldn't move at all. All it could do was continue to spray. As the 7-colored smoke continued to spurt out, the extraordinarily large belly finally began to shrink, and the bulging muscles all over its body also gradually disappeared. If this gets out, this guy will definitely become the most popular person in society. A large-scale social death scene. Lei Changtian was enraptured as he watched. It's really a marvelous spectacle. I'm in awe. You can clearly see the rainbows coming out of his fart. And the billowing smoke is endless. TSK TSK. TSK TSK TSK. Lei Changtian rubbed his head and deeply felt that the video he had saved was really too rare. That scene was really too beautiful, too beautiful, too beautiful. If this was made into a movie and shown on the big screen, the box office would directly explode. This is an unprecedented super creative idea. Perhaps some people have thought of it before, but no one has ever put it into action. Just this scene alone would make this movie worth it. Lei Changtian suddenly had this idea, but he turned to look at his daughter and wisely dismissed this idea. Keep it for yourself. If you have nothing to do, take it out and observe it. Although the temptation was great and it was a scene of the century, compared to his daughter's death chase, it was still slightly inferior. His life was still more precious. Tens of thousands of meters below the cliff, the monster was curled up motionlessly and slightly trembling. Oh God, oh Earth, what did this guy do up there? What did he do to make the heavenly tribulation do such a thing to him? This is really an eye-opener. I've only heard of the heavenly tribulation striking people, but I've never heard of the heavenly tribulation beating people up. The power is all contained in it, just to last a moment longer, to be able to continuously beat people up. Just do it, just do it. What an eye-opener, what an eye-opener. Zhuo Changlu was focused on the video, staring at Zhuo Xiaoduo's but that was still freely blowing out smoke. He was happy and worried at the same time. This 8th tribulation, for a cultivator, is to refine the 5 viscera, 6 bowels, blood vessels, and meridians. The golden crystal lotus, sky heart flower, sun moon fruit that I prepared before. Although they didn't have a protective effect, they still played a considerable role in depleting energy. There's hope that I can make it through. But looking at the current situation, Duo has already reached his limit. The upcoming 9th tribulation is much more powerful than the 8th. How can he make it through? The 9th tribulation is aimed at the divine sense, spirit, and soul. It's most likely that the divine sense and soul will be destroyed. If something goes wrong, the divine sense and soul will be destroyed. The 99 cat hammer is in the state of being refined by the heavenly tribulation for the second time. It's difficult to use it. How can Duo make it through the ninth tribulation? The more Zhuo Changlu thought about it, the more worried he became. The video of the century lasted for more than a minute. Only then did Zhuo Xiaoduo fully release the power of the rainbow in his body. Cough. He maintained the same posture throughout the whole process. His whole body was stiff and he couldn't move. He just kept releasing the rainbow. Halfway through the process, the power was slightly reduced. His eyes, nose, and ears were no longer released. Only his mouth and the front and back of his lower body were released. After all, these two orifices were usually better at this kind of thing. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was stiff. Even he himself felt that his current state was too shameful. Right now, I don't even have a single strand of hair on my body, let alone clothes. It was too shameful. So many people were looking at me. Fortunately, they weren't outsiders. There was no need to mention his mother, father, and grandfather. They were his elders, so it was fine that they had seen him. Mom and Dad had seen me naked long ago. Although they didn't spend much time with Grandpa, they might take a bath together in the future. It was an advance payment. He didn't have to worry about sister-in-law. She had already left. The most annoying one was Nian Nian. Did you think that your husband didn't see you peeping? But forget it. After all, she was his future wife. It was okay if she saw me naked. When the power of the rainbow was completely released from his body, he finally regained his ability to move. He felt the surging spiritual power in his body again, and his internal organs were strengthened a little. Zhuo Xiaoduo immediately jumped up. He wanted to cover himself. Even if his whole body was black, he was still naked. It was necessary. Although it's a good thing, it's still a little embarrassing. Zhuo Xiaoduo quickly wanted to grab something. At least, it could cover the front and back of his lower body. But at this moment, the 9-colored light in the sky flashed again. Boom. The second lightning tribulation fell from the sky without mercy. I changed. I won't dare. I won't dare to be arrogant anymore. Zhuo Xiaoduo screamed miserably. His words were full of sincerity. This was sincere repentance. If he was given another chance, he wouldn't dare to provoke the heavens like this even if he was beaten to death. Before he was struck, he would definitely kowtow a few times. But at this point, why would the heavenly tribulation listen to him? It was such a tasteless bootlicking. Boom. Crash. Zhuo Xiaoduo was knocked down again. Then, the next lightning tribulation was the same as before. Get up and crash down. Get up. Crash down. Get up. Crash down. Like a pile driver, it kept going up and down, crashing down, crashing down, crashing down, crashing down. Streams of multicolored gas passed through the top of his head and entered his body continuously. Boom boom boom. The frequency of the crashing this time was obviously much faster than before. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he had really become a dummy. Yes, a dummy that was crashing down. Zhuo Xiaoduo was slammed straight down. His body was getting smaller and smaller, and his stomach was getting bigger and bigger. His muscles were once again filled with rainbow energy. Perhaps it was a moment, or perhaps it was a long time later. With another boom, the second lightning tribulation ended. The last crash was very light compared to the previous one. It was almost like a bump. But poor Zhuo Xiaoduo was now like a large balloon. His stomach was bulging, and it was more than 1 meter in diameter. He looked like a huge pufferfish. After being hit like this. Suddenly, he bounced up. There was too much rainbow energy in his stomach. So he floated up from the ground. He rushed out of the ground and didn't stop. He floated up and floated up into the sky. Duo, who was already in a daze, opened his mouth subconsciously. Then, he stretched his neck, stuck out his chest, and stuck out his but. Waves of rainbow aura erupted once again. A large-scale social death scene was staged again. Because he was in mid-air, his body maintained this stiff posture. But because of the reverse effect of the exhaust gas, yes, that's right, it was the exhaust gas. Rainbow energy in the tail. Then, because of the reverse effect of the exhaust gas, it formed a strange scene of slowly spinning. As it spun, it spat out rainbows. It was like a human kaleidoscope. Just like that, it spun in a circle, spraying rainbows in all directions. This kind of situation was definitely more dazzling than any fireworks. It was just that this posture was really not very elegant. Or it should be said that it was unsightly. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he was now a textbook example of shame and anger. Wasn't this heavenly tribulation too improper? You can do that on the ground, but why did you put me in the air? Were you afraid that others couldn't see it clearly? Fortunately, there were only the 5 of them in this realm. There were no other outsiders. At least they didn't throw him out of the house. But I'm still embarrassing myself. Below. The 5 guardians held back their laughter and took out their phones to start filming. Chapter 1184. Zhuo Changlu and Lei Changtian were already familiar with the process. Wu Yuding and Bai Yunduo followed suit and quickly got into the zone. Only Zhuo Xiaonian's cultivation level was not high enough to pull the camera over and create a sense of déjà vu. Even if her eyesight was good enough, she did not have the corresponding spatial ability. She was about to miss the opportunity. She was extremely anxious. Hence, she hugged her mother's arm and begged Wu Yuding, "Mom, you have to send me the full video later. Go away. Close your eyes. What are you looking at? That's not good stuff. I don't want to. Little doggy is having fun now. I don't care anymore." Wu Yuding was speechless for a moment. In the future, during the new year. Aren't fireworks banned everywhere? In the future, during the new year. I'll let little doggy go up and make some fireworks. It'll definitely be popular and praised by everyone. Zhuo Xiaonian suddenly had an idea. Let your husband make fireworks in the sky naked. Wu Yuding was surprised. You can do it in our yard. Naked? Why don't you make a hole in your pants? You're a girl. Can you be more shameless? No. On the other side. Bai Yunduo's face was red, but she was still very strong and resolute. She took out her cell phone and started filming. This kind of situation might not happen again in millions of years, let alone once in 1,000 years. It was very likely that this would be the only time in history. It would be a pity to miss this opportunity to preserve the video footage. Seeing everyone's reaction, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was in mid-air, only had one thought. Luckily, Li Chenglong and the others didn't come to watch me break through. Otherwise, how can I still have the face to be their boss? On the ground, Bai, Jiu, and Xiao were jumping up and down and looking up. The 3 little ones were exclaiming, "Wow, Mommy is so awesome. Yeah, Mommy is so awesome. Mommy can actually say something nice. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous." After confirming that the lens was focused, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding looked at each other and began to communicate telepathically. This isn't normal. What's going on? The 10 heavenly tribulations are jointly controlled by the heavenly Daos of the 9 clans. Each of them is responsible for one cycle. Which cycle of the heavenly Daos is responsible for this cycle? So far, there is no malicious intent at all. Yes, the so-called heavenly lightning strike was purely because they were indignant at the little dog's arrogant provocation and specially created a large-scale social death scene. As for the danger, there was not the slightest bit. Even the heavenly lightning strike was helping the little dog. Which clan's heavenly Tao master is this, to actually release such great kindness? How is it possible? To have such complete consciousness? Isn't it too human-like? Yes, it seems to be a game. I'm guessing we'll have to go through this 8 more times. Zhuo Changlu was still paying attention to the recording to confirm the situation. That's for sure. Until now, only the ancient dragon Phoenix Tribulation hasn't made a move. It seems that the dragon Phoenix Tribulation will complete the last heavenly tribulation. However, the dragon Phoenix is famous for not showing mercy. Since they're here to join in the fun, there must be a reason. So, it's fine to lose a little face. The little dog also needs such a lesson. Besides, there are no outsiders. It's just a naked butt and spraying some fireworks or something. But if the last heavenly tribulation falls into the hands of the dragon Phoenix, it will inevitably become a life and death tribulation. It's not optimistic. Wu Yuding sighed and said, no matter how worried we are now, we can't interfere. We can only hope that the dragon Phoenix fate of Duo and Nian Nian will be able to make the last dragon Phoenix tribulation show some mercy. Zhuo Chenglu nodded and didn't say anything else. In fact, he and Wu Yuding knew very well that this was impossible. What kind of existence was the heavenly tribulation? How could there be such a thing as showing mercy? Right now, the husband and wife no longer held out any hope for Zhuo Xiaoduo's so-called perfect heavenly tribulation. They only hoped that the heavenly Tao would allow him to pass through this situation, or even, as long as he could survive, it would be fine. What do you think is the probability of Duo surviving the heavenly tribulation? Wu Yuding was still worried, 90%. Zhuo Chenglu said very calmly. His voice was firm. His expression was calm. This sentence, these two words, were like a powerful reassuring pill. Wu Yuding immediately felt relieved. Her husband would never be too sure of his words. Generally, when he said 80%, it basically meant 100% certainty. As for 90%, it was even more foolproof. There would be no so-called accidents. Zhuo Chenglu calmly continued to record, but in fact, he had already made preparations in case there was no other way. If the situation was really worrisome and Duo couldn't make it, he would use the sky-stealing sun-swapping technique and sacrifice one of the minister's doppelgangers in exchange for Duo. Although this would cause Zhuo Xiaoduo's great Tao to be damaged, and he would never be able to reach the peak in his lifetime. It would even be difficult for him to take another step forward. At the same time, it would also cause his strength to drop by one level. But it was much better than having his soul scattered. Only by staying alive would there be a future to speak of. That was why he made this promise. Because he knew that if he didn't say this, Wu Yuding would definitely do it when the time came. And his wife's cultivation was much weaker than his own. So I'll do it when the time comes. Zhuo Chenglu thought calmly and looked at the heavenly tribulation with full confidence. As a husband, as a father, if I have to do this, then who else but me? In the sky. Bolts of tribulation lightning continued to strike down, one after another. Zhuo Xiaoduo naturally maintained his naked state as he spun in circles in the sky and set off fireworks. The worst time was when his stomach was 3 times bigger than the most bloated period before. It was to the extent that he directly floated more than 800 meters in the sky. Under the watchful eyes of the 10 tribulation eyes, he floated back and forth. This was too much. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he was going to explode from anger. Most of the time, he was like a small jet filled with dye, flying back and forth under the clouds. Sometimes, his butt would spray rainbows as he rushed forward. After rushing to a certain distance, the front of his lower body would spray rainbows, and then he would retreat. And then halfway back, his mouth would start spraying rainbows as well. There was also a recoil, or perhaps a forward recoil. After 2 rounds, the only place left to spray was the buttocks. He flew as he sprayed rainbows. There was even a kind of feeling, buzz buzz buzz, buzz buzz buzz, I'm a happy little bee. My ass. Zhuo Xiaoduo could feel that all around him, there was resentment from the 9 great heavenly Tao. They were all looking at him gloatingly. Who asked you to be cheap? Kid, are you still cheap? Are you still smug? It's been so long, there hasn't been anything that dared to provoke the heavenly Tao in such a cheap way. Now, there's actually someone like you. Isn't it fun to play with you? Don't I care about my reputation? Zhuo Xiaoduo felt this resentment very clearly and very clearly. It was within reach and close at hand. He didn't know if others could feel it when they were going through the tribulation, but he could clearly feel it. Although he could feel it, Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't dare to let out a fart now. Cough. No, he was farting non-stop now. He was really bootlicking. And it was a continuous stream of bootlicking. In short, he didn't dare to show even the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. He really knew. It turned out that the heavens really did have emotions. Mamma mia. This is too scary. You should have said that you had emotions earlier. You should have said that you had feelings earlier. How would I dare to provoke you? I would have definitely tried to please you and flatter you. Even if it was bootlicking, I wouldn't have hesitated. Yes, what I'm doing now is really bootlicking, but it's not the same as what I'm saying. He was getting closer and closer to the tribulation clouds. Countless thoughts began to surround Zhuo Xiaoduo. Zhuo Xiaoduo could clearly sense that several consciousnesses were even conversing with him. Are you going to be wild again? Why aren't you being wild anymore? Show me one more time. Provoke me. Can't you do it? Aren't you cheap? Where's your ability? Do you believe that I'll strike your penis so hard that it won't grow back forever? Tell me if you don't believe me. Little kid, I can't do anything to you. I'll fuck your ass until it blossoms and blossoms. I'll teach you a lesson. It's rare to see someone so cocky since the beginning of time. Don't be scared. You can continue to do this in the future. Today's show was very good. You can continue to do this in the future. Take it easy, you guys. I can't stand this cheap look. I can't stand it either. Me too. Me too. Cheap people will be punished by the heavens. Haven't you heard of this before? Zhuo Xiaoduo trembled, but his stiff body couldn't do anything else. He couldn't even beg for mercy. He could only try his best to show an expression of begging for mercy in his eyes. However, those cowering little eyes, those pitiful little eyes, those innocent little eyes, those ignorant of the world. Pure, innocent, bright, ignorant, adorable. All kinds of expressions were vividly displayed in Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes. This guy is still acting. Does he really think that this little trick will work? Let's do it again. Zhuo Xiaoduo now felt that he had been reduced to a toy. Yes, a toy of the heavenly axiom. However, on second thought, he could not help but feel smug and proud. Since ancient times, who could become a toy of the heavenly axiom? Could the heavenly axiom casually play with him? What a joke! That required great luck. Great courage. Great achievements. Could Li Chenglong do it? Could Long Yusheng do it? Wan Li Xiu, Yu Moyan, and the others. A bunch of trash. Only I, Zhuo Xiaoduo. Creation of the heavens and earth. Since the beginning of time. Unprecedented and unparalleled. I am proud. The heavenly axiom's consciousness was puzzled. This guy is actually arrogant. He's already like this. His butt is already blooming, and he can still be so smug. I really don't know where he got his arrogance from. Come, let's do it again. Let him show off. Let me think carefully, why is he so proud? Finally, it was the last one. The unprecedented 9-colored lightning tribulation struck a total of 99 times. Zhuo Xiaoduo flew into the sky like a pig's urine bubble that was as thin as a cicada's wings. Chapter 1185. Zhuo Xiaoduo dared to swear. Even his father, Zhuo Changlu, wouldn't dare to play with such precision. If he had a little more qi, he would have exploded into fireworks. This level of control, this level of control, this level of precision. This wasn't a level that a human could grasp. In this state, his whole body swelled, and he could even see that every meridian in Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was flowing with 9-colored brilliance. Thus, a new round of unprecedented spewing began. This time, Zhuo Xiaoduo once again heard the exchange of thoughts between them. The last round is controlled by you guys. Take it easy, don't kill him. In the future, when this guy has a breakthrough, we'll play again. That's right, that's right. This guy is really rare. Not bad, not bad. At least in my 30 million years. This is the first time I've met such a cheap guy. I've had a lot of fun today. That's right, that's right. I'm afraid it'll be hard to meet such an interesting cheap guy in the future. He has to stay, otherwise, where else can we play? Keep it, keep it. After a long while, Zhuo Xiaoduo, whose but was still spewing rainbows, finally landed from the sky. It had to be said that the landing posture was very beautiful. It was magnificent, riding the wind, riding the clouds, and spewing rainbows. He was completely naked from head to toe, without a single strand of hair on his body. He was no different from a newborn baby. However, this baby had a strong body and had already matured. Moreover, he was extremely mature. Some parts that should have matured were even more mature. It was very enviable. The more one looked at the pirated version, the more envious they were. When Zhuo Xiaoduo landed on the ground again, he had regained the ability to move. His first reaction was to quickly pull out a robe and put it on his body. Now, he had to quickly cover his naked butt. The legend of the Snow White under the moonlight couldn't continue anymore. But on second thought, he realized that this still wouldn't work. There would be another heavenly tribulation later, and it would definitely be more powerful than before. Thus, he took out another set of clothes and hurriedly put them on. His movements were so awkward and flustered that he looked like an adulterer who was in the middle of an affair and whose husband had suddenly returned. In the small amount of time that he had, he was going to move things around and wait for the final moment. Heavens! So the tribulation was actually such a frightening thing? Transcending the tribulation was truly the most dangerous, most terrifying, and most frightening thing. The heavenly Tao was indeed able to sense it, the heavens were indeed able to see. You scared me to death, Bohuhu. In the future, I won't dare to act cheap anymore. I must turn over a new leaf and turn over a new leaf. In the face of the heavenly tribulation, I don't dare to say a word. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt so wrong that tears were about to fall from his eyes. I just said something stupid. I didn't mean anything bad. Do you have to take it so seriously? Do you have to make fun of me so seriously? You are, after all, the masters of the heavenly Tao who have been in charge of the world for tens of thousands of years. Shouldn't you be aloof and reserved? Even if others offend you, shouldn't you just smile and be magnanimous? Was there a need to be so unforgiving? Using the rainbow energy to drive me into the air like a jet, you have the nerve to do that? Was this something that the great masters of the heavenly Tao could do? How dare he treat an obstruction as something interesting? This was simply intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the aunt could not tolerate it. Subconsciously, he took out the 9x9 kitty hammers. However, the moment the hammers were in his hands, he was violently electrocuted. He felt his entire body go limp and weak, unable to maintain it. Fuck, there was actually a portion of the power of the heavenly tribulation left on the 9x9 kitty hammers. Zhuo Xiaoduo was stunned on the spot. Fuck, is this some kind of secret technique to seal my weapon? How am I going to transcend the tribulation like this? Aren't you acting shamelessly? Are you worthy of being the heavenly Tao if you can do something like this? What happened to the heavenly Tao being selfless and fair? How am I supposed to pick up my weapon and beat you up when it's electrified? Bai and Jiu suddenly appeared. In a flash of black and white light, they entered the 9x9 kitty hammers with great familiarity. However, they completely ignored the power of the heavenly tribulation lingering on the hammers. The next moment, the 9-colored light on the 9x9 kitty hammers suddenly disappeared. Then, they automatically floated up and fell back into Zhuo Xiaoduo's hands. Zhuo Xiaoduo weighed them in his hands and suddenly felt as if they were weightless. It was as if he was holding two papier-mâché hammers. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was well aware that the weight of the hammers was still there. In fact, they were much heavier than before. This was a rather strange and contradictory feeling that was unusually real. It came from the bottom of his heart. It was natural, but he couldn't figure out the source. It was a wonderful feeling. Good babies, I didn't dote on you two for nothing. Zhuo Xiaoduo knew very well that this result was due to Bai and Jiu suppressing the power of the heavenly tribulation that was still lingering on the 9x9 kitty hammers. His two babies deserved great credit. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt very comforted. With children, everything would be fine. In the depths of the 9x9 kitty hammers that he couldn't see, Bai and Jiu held hands and opened their mouths to swallow with all their might. They didn't have time to care about Xiaoduo's mother outside. It wasn't easy to wait until the heavenly tribulation was at the end of its flight. However, there were still some nutrients in it that hadn't dissipated. It was the most ripe time. If they didn't swallow it now, when would they? This was the most delicious thing. The two babies ate with all their might. Their two little mouths swallowed like whales. There was only one thought left in their minds. Bai swallowed and poured energy into Jiu's body through their hands. Jiu swallowed and poured energy into Bai's body through their hands. As the two babies continued to pour energy into each other, the energy of yin and yang was gradually formed. During this period of time, the energy of the 3 souls and 7 spirits that the two babies had swallowed was broken down and transformed into the purest energy. It saved them a lot of time to destroy the remaining souls. The two babies held hands and swallowed like whales in the hammer. They were so excited that they shook their legs and ate heartily. The two of them didn't fight and entered the hammer from the beginning. Wasn't it all for this moment? What a delicious meal, how delightful. At this time, the 10 heavenly tribulation eyes in the sky started to spin again. They spun and finally disappeared one by one. Zhuo Changlu and his wife's expressions didn't improve at all. Instead, they looked very worried and their expressions were extremely ugly. The clouds in the sky were getting thicker and thicker, and the colors were also colorful. It was extremely magnificent. In the end, all the colors blended into the other colors. The entire sky was like an extremely complex yet extremely magnificent color palette. In the center, there was a huge heavenly tribulation eye left alone. Yes, there was only one heavenly tribulation eye left. The colorful clouds on both sides were separated. The surroundings were like a black hole, deep and endless. The colorful clouds on both sides were rolling and circling in the sky. At this time, a golden dragon suddenly appeared, shaking its head and wagging its tail. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. The moment the dragon lowered its head, its huge dragon eyes shone brightly as it looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo. Just one of its eyeballs seemed to be bigger than the mountain under its feet. On the other side, there was also a 7-colored phoenix. With a clear cry, it descended majestically. In an instant, the dragon soared and the phoenix danced in the sky. It was extremely magnificent and indescribable. This sudden turn of events caused everyone below to be dumbfounded. Gusts of fierce wind blew as the golden dragon circled and the colorful phoenix spread its wings. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. On the ground, dust and sand were flying everywhere. The wind on the ground had reached a level above level 9 in the blink of an eye. Countless people who were looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky couldn't even open their eyes. They hurriedly went home and closed their doors to avoid the sudden change in the weather. The higher the cultivation of people, the more they felt their souls trembling. They did not dare to move recklessly. From the moment Zhuo Xiaoduo started to transcend the tribulation, those with higher cultivation understood that this was a peerless genius transcending the heavenly tribulation. This guess was not difficult at all. The external traces were too obvious. Based on this knowledge, countless experts within a radius of 10,000 miles were all rushing over. After all, this was the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation. It was quite rare. For those who had not broken through to the Skysoar realm, if they could observe it from a close distance, it would be a great reference for their future tribulation. It could be said to be a heaven-sent opportunity, an excellent opportunity. Even without observing it from a close distance, even if they were a few hundred miles away, they could feel the aura and aura. It could be said to be a great benefit. If they could receive blessings from the heavens at the moment when the person transcending the tribulation broke through, it would benefit them greatly and endlessly. In other words, the closer a cultivator was to the place of transcending the tribulation, the more benefits they would receive. Who would be willing to let go of such a heaven-sent opportunity that was close to being a freeloader? As they rushed over, all kinds of envy, jealousy, and hatred rose in their hearts that it was a pity that these people came to a place about 500 miles away and could not go any further. Zhuo Changlu and the other three were guarding here. They had already set up an impenetrable barrier. With these 4 people working together, no matter who it was, they could forget about coming over. This matter was related to her son's lifelong achievement. How could she let those with evil intentions enter? Not to mention that Wu Yuding had a bad temper. Even if she had a good temper, she would absolutely not allow it. Not to mention people, even the surging evil thoughts were all directly destroyed by the divine sense. Especially now that they were at the critical moment of the last round, it was not as simple as Wu Yuding and the other guardians not letting them pass that at this moment, even the sky could not be seen. Those with low cultivation were still fine. Those who knew to go back home and sleep or lower their heads to not look at the sky and do other things. Naturally, nothing would happen. As for those who had higher cultivation and wanted to cause trouble, if they chose to resist, they would find that the foundation of their true origin that they had painstakingly cultivated was slowly dissipating. This was too scary. We just wanted to watch from the sidelines and freeload. Is there a need to be so cruel? We just didn't watch the original version, right? We just didn't rush to the VIP section at the starting point, right? We've already changed it, okay? We'll be good brothers in the future. Chapter 1186. The sky was completely dark. Not even a little bit of sunlight could be seen. Even Dongfang Zhengyang and Nanjing Qian, who were in Shangjing City, could not see anything. Yu Dongtian, who had a higher cultivation level, could see some clues, but he did not dare to come over to join in the fun. Not only did the 3 of them not come over to join in the fun, but they also set up another line of defense in this direction. A line of defense that was personally guarded by the 3 of them. It had to be said that the extravagance of Zhuo Xiaodua's support for his breakthrough this time was extremely extravagant. But those guardians alone were so extravagant that it was almost impossible to replicate them. Ahem, I will not list them one by one here. The wind on the ground gradually rose to level 10, and the wind in the sky had exceeded level 14. It had reached a level that was unimaginable and unbelievable in the mortal world. Unfortunately, this little bit of wind was nothing to the dragons and phoenixes in the sky. They maintained a posture of slowly descending. There were all kinds of brilliant, magnificent, and dazzling lights, and so on. The remaining tribulation eye between the dragons and phoenixes descended, and gradually came to a low altitude of about 1,000 meters. At this moment, the golden dragon's huge body suddenly coiled around the tribulation eye, and only the dragon's head was left. The phoenix fluttered and danced, and slowly perched on the tribulation eye. Zhuo Xiaoyan could not take her eyes off it. It was also the first time that she had witnessed such a magnificent scene with her own eyes. She did not know why, but when she saw the majestic eyes of the phoenix, Zhuo Xiaoyan vaguely felt a sense of intimacy. Although the tribulation eye had stopped descending, it was still spinning, and it was spinning faster and faster. A great sense of danger suddenly enveloped everyone present. Zhuo Xiaoyan's heart was beating like a drum. She instinctively put her hand to her mouth and shouted, "Duo Duo, be careful." Zhuo Xiaodua's body was floating in the wild wind, and he nodded solemnly. At this moment, he clearly felt the greatest malice in the world. Everyone present, including Zhuo Changlu, did not notice that when Zhuo Xiaoyan shouted. The phoenix in the air, which had already rotated until only its outline was left, suddenly opened its eyes and glanced over at them like lightning. His eyes met Zhuo Xiaoyan's anxious eyes. The girl's extremely pure eyes only contained concern from the bottom of her heart, as well as the urgency of wanting to take his place. Then, the eye of heavenly tribulation suddenly rose. Two rays of light, one bright and one dark, flickered inside, and a huge thunderball suddenly took shape. Then, the whole sky lit up for a moment, but then it went dark again. The lightning ball fell with a loud bang. Zhuo Xiaoduo let out a long roar. The elixir that he had been keeping in his stomach and wrapped in true qi dissolved. Abundant and powerful spiritual energy exploded in all directions, rushing into his limbs and bones. Before the lightning tribulation fell, Zhuo Xiaoduo was already full of energy, waving his two big hammers and rushing up to the sky in an evil manner. With two hammers in hand, the world is mine. An indescribable heroic aura suddenly rose from Zhuo Xiaoduo's heart. You can smash me down. Zhuo Xiaoduo roared, but you can never stop me from rushing up. The lightning ball rolled down from the sky. It was a huge lightning ball the size of a mountain. Under the reflection of the huge lightning ball, Zhuo Xiaoduo was like an ant with two antennae. He was so small. But even though he was as small as an ant, Zhuo Xiaoduo was still fearless. He rushed madly towards the huge lightning ball, and there was no turning back. The lightning ball flashed, and with the force of a mountain, it hit Zhuo Xiaoduo's hammers hard. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo had just performed the first move of the Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer. Boom. The whole mountain, river, and earth trembled. As soon as Zhuo Xiaoduo came into contact with it, he felt that something was wrong. The spiritual qi that he had gathered with all his might was like a snowflake meeting the scorching sun under the first tribulation of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. It dissipated without any resistance and disappeared without a trace. Boom. At the moment of contact, Bai Bai cried out in a tender voice, ah. Jiu also cried out in a childish voice, ah. The two of them rushed out of the 99 cat hammers and danced into the lightning ball. The lightning ball broke through the defense of the hammers as if it was not affected at all. It continued to hit Zhuo Xiaoduo fiercely. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that his 3 souls and 7 spirits were scattered. Facing the heavenly tribulation, the protective true core energy could not resist at all. It was consumed in an instant, and the true core energy flowed through his body. The moment Zhuo Xiaoduo's soul left his body, he even saw that his body was completely transparent at this moment. Whether it was his muscles, bones, or internal organs, every inch of his skin was clear and transparent. Zhuo Xiaoduo knew that he could not panic at this moment. He held on to the last bit of clarity in his heart and used his willpower to prevent the hammers from falling. He raised them up with all his might. At this moment, he only felt that his soul was suffering a lot. All kinds of life and death parting, all kinds of pain and troubles, and the pain of being stabbed by sharp blades and axes, were endless. Then, many lights and shadows appeared in front of him. Zhuo Zhanglu's entire body was covered in blood. His body was full of swords and sabers. He was leaning against a tree. It seemed that he was no longer breathing. The enemy's sabers and swords were still smashing towards his body with a whistling sound. Ah! Seeing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo was horrified and could not help but let out a tragic cry. Just as the sharp blades were about to slaughter Zhuo Changlu's body, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of him and threw herself at Zhuo Changlu. It was none other than Wu Yuding. However, this only changed into thousands of swords and sabers, which fell on Wu Yuding's body. Before his mother died, she glanced at him and seemed to be telling him, Duo, run. Zhuo Xiaoduo trembled. He did not know where he got the strength, but he instinctively rushed forward. With red eyes, he stood in front of his parents with his body. Puff, puff, puff. He could feel countless arrows and weapons landing on his body. It was so dense, so endless. My parents raised me. Even if it was the enemy's wish, I would not hesitate. Zhuo Xiaoduo murmured and used his body to protect his parents' bodies. Even though he knew it was useless, he did not hesitate. the scene suddenly changed. Zhuo Xiaoduo saw someone grab Zhuo Xiaonian and throw her delicate body into the air. Below, thousands of soldiers were aiming at Zhuo Xiaonian with their bows and arrows. They had no intention of showing mercy to her. Suddenly, countless sharp arrows pierced through Zhuo Xiaonian's delicate body. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Zhuo Xiaoduo roared and rushed to Zhuo Xiaonian's body. At the same time, he turned into a hedgehog. Duo. You are so silly. Zhuo Xiaonian, who was still alive, looked at him with despair and heartache. Silly. So be it. Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled and said, even if I cut my enemy into pieces, it would not be as good as hugging you for one more second. I don't want to be with you. I'm afraid you'll be scared. The scene changed again. The wind howled and Zhuo Xiaoduo rushed into the battlefield to help. At this moment, the battle was over. However, the battle situation was, the enemy had already retreated. On the other side, lying in a pool of blood were the bodies of Li Chenglong, Long Yusheng, Gao Qiao, Wan Li Xiu, and more than 10 others. Every one of them died in a terrible way. Pairs of eyes full of hatred, unwilling to close in death, glared at the sky. Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that the blood in his body suddenly froze. His whole soul suddenly exploded. Without thinking, he picked up his sledgehammer and rushed to the front with a roar. He rushed to the enemy's tens of thousands of neat soldiers. Blood for blood. Blood for blood. He lost his mind and fought fiercely. Countless enemies were turned into minced meat under his 2 sledgehammers. However, even when he ran out of energy, the enemies were still densely packed like a tide. Sometimes, a person's strength was limited. It was still difficult to fight against tens of thousands of enemies alone. He roared and began to break out of the encirclement. This hatred is irreconcilable. As long as I don't die in this life, today's hatred will be avenged by slaughtering the enemy country. After breaking out of the encirclement, he continued to train and fight. Whenever he had the chance, he would take revenge. This cycle went on for countless years. Finally, in the last battle, he destroyed the enemy in one fell swoop. He broke into the enemy country's capital and smashed into the palace. He also killed the enemy country's emperor with one sledgehammer. At the moment when he became minced meat under the sledgehammer, Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed wildly to the sky, swish. Did you see that? Who dares to bully us? Who dares to bully us? It was another battlefield. He and Zhuo Xiaonian fought side by side. They took the lead, while Li Chenglong and the others followed behind them. They killed the enemies until their blood flowed like a river. Their momentum was unparalleled. Zhuo Chenglu and Wu Yuding supervised the army from behind. They were ready to help at any time. A great victory was right in front of them. Suddenly, dark clouds appeared in the sky. The pressure was unprecedented. An imperial palace appeared above the dark clouds. It was majestic and solemn. 2 people in imperial robes and crowns stepped out at the same time. Their murderous intent was overflowing. Seeing this, Zhuo Chenglu and Wu Yuding shouted in unison, "Run!" Before he even finished speaking, he had already rushed out in a flash and charged straight into the sky to engage in a great battle with the 2 sovereigns. The 2 sovereigns each held a scroll in their hands, and the instant the scrolls fluttered open, they actually directly swept Zhuo Zhanglu and his wife into them. The other person held a bell in his hand. It looked small and exquisite, but as he approached, the bell grew larger and larger. There were mountains, rivers, and countless divine beasts engraved on the bell. When they were not far from each other, the countless divine beasts had already transformed from the engravings on the bell into boundless demonic gods that surged forward like a river from the heavens. Zhuo Xiaoduo and the others tried their best to resist stubbornly. They were still able to hold on for a while. Seeing that the situation was in a stalemate, the emperor holding the bell seemed to be impatient and said lightly, "Even a grain of rice can shine." Suddenly, he flicked his finger lightly on the bell. With a crisp sound, Long Yusheng, who was in the midst of battle, actually collapsed and exploded in an instant. Even his soul wasn't spared and was completely annihilated. Wanli Xiu let out a sorrowful cry, but she turned into dust along with the sound of another bell. Chapter 1187. Li Chenglong roared, "Boss, let's go. Leave us behind and avenge us." As they spoke, the remaining 10 people joined hands and merged into one, and then they tore through the sky and flew up to meet the bell that was approaching forcefully in midair. With a loud bang, the 10 people launched a self-detonation attack at the same time. They used their lives to open up a way for Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian to survive. The unprecedentedly violent aftermath of the explosion sent Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian flying thousands of miles away. However, Li Chenglong and the others had disappeared forever. Their souls were destroyed, and they would never be seen again. Ah! Dong Huang! Dong Huang! Zhuo Xiaoduo screamed at the top of his lungs. In the eyes of Zhuo Changlu and the others who were watching the heavenly tribulation, they saw the first lightning strike of the dragon phoenix tribulation. Zhuo Xiaoduo roared and rushed into the sky to fight against it. However, as soon as they touched, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was stopped in midair by the lightning strike. Then, 2 gourds, one black and one white, appeared on Zhuo Xiaoduo's hammer. They rushed into the lightning strike in a delicate manner. The lightning strike flashed wildly for a while. Under the heavenly tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body flickered. One moment, it was transparent and shining, and the next moment, it was as black as ink. The first lightning strike was blocked by the 2 gourds. Zhuo Changlu murmured in disbelief. What gourds were so powerful? Wu Yuding was also puzzled, but there was a hint of relief on her face. However, even with their high cultivation, they could not see the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo experienced. Even in Zhuo Zhanglu's eyes, the first lightning tribulation had already ended. However, he didn't know that the lingering charm of the Great Tao was still operating silently. The outside world watched as Zhuo Xiaoduo fought against the dragon phoenix tribulation lightning. However, in this short period of time, Zhuo Xiaoduo had experienced countless illusions. With his wisdom, he could quickly wake up even in an illusion created by the heavenly tribulation. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was completely immersed in the illusion created by the heavenly tribulation. This was the most dangerous manifestation of the heavenly tribulation. Once there was a deviation in one's thoughts, one's inner demon would be hidden, and it would be shackled for life. Only when one experienced the tribulation and became a saint would one be able to get rid of the inner demon. However, since ancient times, there were very few people who could walk on the path of the heavenly tribulation saint. And Zhuo Xiaoduo was going through such a test. This was the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation. In fact, if one's thoughts were slightly off or if one made a wrong move, one would be consigned to eternal damnation by the inner demons. As the second lightning tribulation struck, the 2 small gourds rushed out again. Just like before, they rushed into the heavenly tribulation to stop the momentum of the heavenly tribulation lightning. However, this lightning bolt was almost twice as powerful as the previous one. Even the combined power of Bai and Jiu could not stop it. The remaining power was transmitted to Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was still fixed in the air. The skin and flesh of his entire head were immediately charred. With a boom, his entire body was wrapped in flames. The world was instantly filled with the fragrance of roasted meat. Wu Yuding was about to rush out with tears in her eyes. Don't move. Zhuo Changlu grabbed her. Duoduo's body is full of vitality. Although it was full of vitality and life aura, Wu Yuding was so heartbroken that her heart convulsed when she saw her son burning into a ball of fire. My own son, whom I can't even bear to hit, is being abused like this. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was in the middle of the heavenly tribulation lightning, was enduring the destruction of the 2 extremes. Now, it was not only the spiritual pain from the illusion, but also the physical pain from the outside world. Both his body and mind were under pressure. He saw it again. He saw his parents' souls imprisoned in the netherworld and tortured for eternity. I'm going to tear down this netherworld. Zhuo Xiaoduo cursed and roared madly, I must tear it down. Ah! In all the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo had encountered so far, he had always chosen the same way to deal with them without exception, fight head-on. If Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding knew about the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo encountered, they would definitely be shocked and in disbelief. Firstly, it was too much. Secondly, it was Zhuo Xiaoduo's character. When did that slippery and sly little dog, who ran faster than a rabbit whenever there was danger, change his character and fight head-on in a way that he would never choose? Little did they know that this was Zhuo Xiaoduo's true character. Zhuo Xiaoduo's superficial character was the character that he had always shown to the outside world. Of course, it was also his true character, but it was only a part of his true character. A person like Zhuo Xiaoduo would face most of the events rationally, that is, after careful consideration, he would respond to them. This was the so-called plan before acting. However, if he encountered a strong stimulus or some sudden big event, he would choose to fight head-on regardless of everything. When Zhuo Xiaoduo faced a huge force, he used this kind of reckless attitude to fight back. Since when did he have the slightest bit of cowardice to avoid it? Zhuo Xiaoduo was a hidden dragon. Facing so many crafty schemes and perilous waves, Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't dodge. He also fought back. In Baishan City, there were still no plots and tricks. He just fought head-on. Including this time when he went to the UMNO Alliance. In a desperate situation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice was still fearless. He just fought back. In the territory of the demon race, he accidentally saw Zhan Xuejuan being captured, which could be said to be the best reflection of his character. In that case, if it were Long Yusheng or Li Chenglong, there was a 99% chance that they wouldn't help. This didn't mean that they were afraid of death and didn't care about their feelings. It was a rational choice, knowing that it was useless to rush out and save their useful bodies. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice was different. When the situation came to a head, he chose to fight head-on. He would always fight head-on, and he would fight head-on. Normally, if there was a 10% chance of danger, Zhuo Xiaoduo would choose to temporarily retreat and take a roundabout route to avoid the danger. But when it came to a critical moment, as long as he felt that it was his business, even if there was only a 1% chance of success, he would fight back. In all fairness, Zhuo Xiaoduo's character had a great flaw. He was definitely not a suitable candidate to be a general or a prime minister, or even a decision-making person. All the sly and cunning people were wrapped up in a heart that would never turn back once the sword was drawn. He would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. It was just like what he had said in the dreamland. My parents raised me. Even if it's the enemy's wish, I won't hesitate. Therefore, he would rather choose not to take revenge and choose to fulfill his filial piety at the last moment, even if it was just protecting his parents' bodies for a second. Even if I cut my enemy into pieces, it's not as good as holding you for a second at this moment. If I don't accompany you, I'm afraid you'll be afraid. Therefore, in the second illusion, he chose to die together with Zhuo Xiaoyan. Li Chenglong and the others were killed. At that time, Zhuo Xiaoduo had completely lost the so-called standards of justice, good, and evil in his heart. I only want revenge. I don't care how many innocent people I kill. Your country killed my brothers, so you'll all die with them. As for the reputation behind me, what does it have to do with me? Could it be that he was going to give up on avenging his brothers just because of a few words from others? Zhuo Xiaoduo's goal had always been clear, even simple. He was not as cunning as he usually was when it came to the people he valued. He would not care about gains and losses, nor would he consider self-preservation. If people did not offend him, he would not offend them. If people offended him, he would kill their entire family and army. He knew better than anyone else about seeking good fortune and avoiding evil. He knew better than anyone where it was safe and where it was dangerous. However, when it was time for him to make a choice, he would always go forward without hesitation. He knew better than anyone else and understood better than anyone else. However, when it came down to it, all the logic could not compare to the obsession in his heart. These are my parents, I'll protect them. These are my wives, I'll protect them. These are my friends, I'll protect them. This was Sui Xiaoduo. He was usually extremely greedy, stingy, and slippery, but deep down, he was stubborn. He only cared about the present and did not care about the future. He was a person with a huge flaw in his character. However, this Sui Xiaoduo with a huge flaw in his character was the most authentic Sui Xiaoduo. Even if I survive, I'll be able to shake the world and surpass the past and present in the future. However, I only care about the present, so I only care about the present. The third lightning tribulation continued to rumble and fall. Bai and Jiao were already somewhat powerless, but they still chose to go against the current. However, this time, they were faced with a lightning tribulation that was twice as strong. They finally screamed in pain. Although the tribulation lightning was of great benefit to the two of them, they were still in their infancy, so their power was relatively limited. Especially when they had to accept the benefits and endure the boundless pain in the process of absorbing the benefits, it was not an easy task. Fortunately, at this moment, another strong helper appeared. Sui Xiaoduo's body suddenly flashed, and the cat's spirit sword flew out. On the tip of the sword, the black light was so condensed that it was almost solid. A destructive aura suddenly filled the sky and the earth. In the face of such extreme destructive power, even the lightning tribulation of the heavenly Tao had to avoid it. The sword light kept trembling in the lightning tribulation. The black light was still condensed and rushed to the left side of Bai and Jiao with irresistible force. The two climbed onto the sword, one on the left and one on the right. Then, the three qis flowed together and exploded with unprecedented ferocity, counterattacking against the current. The sudden appearance of this sword light actually split open the third lightning tribulation, clearly splitting it in the middle. The cat's spirit sword flashed with sword light and rushed to the clouds. However, after losing the black light, it inevitably became weak and fell down. A ray of demonic light, a ray of white light, and a ray of black light. The three qis merged and then separated, returning to Sui Xiaoduo's body. It was not that the god-killing spear Yan Shisi did not want to try his best, but he was really weak. Previously, when he launched this attack, Bai and Jiao, who were being hammered by tens of thousands of lightning tribulations, broke through the third lightning tribulation and brought them back. After that, he did not have much strength left. At least. Today, he could not fight anymore. Did I feel a little dizzy? I still want to write the 5th chapter. I will write it. If I can write it, I will post it. If I can't, there is nothing I can do. If I can't write it, I will post a single chapter and ask for votes. Chapter 1188. Clang. The cat's spirit sword rolled down from the sky and embedded itself into the mountain rock. Although the sword was mottled, it still shone brightly. The benefits the spirit cat sword received from this heavenly tribulation were unimaginable. Under the protection of the god-slaying spear Yan Shisi, it was equivalent to being tempered by the heavenly tribulation once again. The fourth bolt of heavenly tribulation was mixed with boundless purple energy. It was even more powerful than the first 3 bolts of heavenly tribulation. The wind howled, and even the meteors that were about to hit the ground were blown away. No one knew where they landed. Sui Xiaoduo had survived the first 3 bolts of heavenly tribulation. Sui Changlu and Wu Yuding heaved a sigh of relief and looked at each other. What? What was the origin of those 2 small gourds? And what was that destructive black light filled with demonic flames and demonic qi that soared into the sky? When did the cat's spirit sword become so powerful that it could split the heavenly tribulation? Even with the help of the 3 qi, it shouldn't be so powerful. The fourth bolt of heavenly tribulation seemed to be dissatisfied with the fact that it could split the third bolt of heavenly tribulation. It seemed to want to destroy Sui Xiaoduo in one fell swoop. At this moment, a ball of red light appeared on Zhuo Xiaoduo's body and faced the fourth bolt of heavenly tribulation. Caw! A strange cry abruptly rang out. A three-legged crow appeared on top of Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. Bai was standing on his left shoulder, and Jiu was on his right shoulder. One was white and tender, and the other was black and charmingly naive. The three-legged crow flapped its wings, and with a boom it then transformed into the grand sun primordial fire that soared into the sky. Unparalleled flames soared into the sky. In the grand sun primordial flame, the shadow of the three-legged crow stood still and leisurely. The flame that shot up into the sky was even crazier than the heavenly tribulation that had just descended from the 9 heavens. In an instant, the grand sun primordial flame carried Bai and Jiu into the heavenly tribulation. Then, a series of crackling sounds could be heard. It was only a momentary stalemate. The lightning quickly suppressed the grand sun primordial fire and continued to sweep down. Just like before, it completely enveloped Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. Zhuo Xiaoduo's limbs, starting from his fingers to his toes, were visibly charred and carbonized before turning into ashes. All the true essence in his body was released, and at the same time, the boundless life force in his sea of consciousness moved. As a result, endless vitality gushed out from his body. His entire body turned into a green ball of light amidst the lightning tribulation. Amidst the screams, his upper body had already melted down to his left and right shoulders, while his lower body had melted down to his dantian. The originally irreversible crisis of his physical body being destroyed was actually stopped and pushed back by the green light. Then, in the midst of the lightning tribulation, he recovered and was reborn at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, his arms and legs were back to normal. Dark clouds covered the sky, the roars of dragons and cries of phoenixes, the heavenly tribulation hung in the sky, the true flames of the sun. They collided violently. Zhuo Changlu's face sank as he muttered, "This is too much." Wu Yuding's face was filled with anger, heartache, and helplessness as well. With the couple's experience, they could naturally tell that the fourth lightning tribulation was the most extreme type of lightning tribulation. It was clearly meant to kill. From the current outcome, Zhuo Xiaoduo had indeed gained a lot of benefits. His originally destroyed limbs and even parts of his body had been tempered by the heavenly Tao, becoming even stronger and tougher. However, such benefits were clearly not something a Skysoar realm cultivator should be able to bear. After withstanding the heavenly tribulation, there would naturally be boundless benefits. However, the prerequisite for all of this was that one had to withstand it first. If one couldn't overcome it, everything would turn into ashes. What else could one say? The previous lightning tribulation had long surpassed the limits of a Skysoar realm cultivator's tribulation. If it weren't for the 2 gourds and the bird's 3 parallel forces, if it weren't for the mysterious boundless vitality in Zhuo Xiaoduo's body, then, even if Zhuo Changlu wanted to save him, it would be too late. Zhuo Xiaoduo would undoubtedly die. There are actually 6 more lightning tribulations like this? Wu Yuding muttered. She really couldn't bear it anymore. If something like this happened again, Zhuo Xiaoduo wouldn't be able to withstand it and would die without leaving a trace in this world. However, the problem was right before their eyes. If they didn't let their son try, their son's future would be ruined. However, if they let their son try, the price of failure would be eternal damnation. There would be no way out. Parents were always so conflicted. Zhuo Changlu frowned as he carefully observed the sole true fire rising from the lightning tribulation. Even in the midst of the lightning tribulation, it was still burning fiercely. Let's wait a little longer. Zhuo Changlu frowned and said, "Heaven is fair. There's an ancient saying that karma has a cause. The heavenly tribulation wouldn't deliberately target people like this. If heaven is really fair, then Xiaoduo must have a life-saving trump card that we don't know about. It's enough to deal with the current situation. The green vitality from before is a clear proof. We don't know, but it doesn't hinder heaven's senses. It took those factors into consideration and added them into the equation. That's why Xiaoduo's current heavenly tribulation is so difficult. Let's wait a little longer. Wu Yuding sighed worriedly. To be honest, now I somewhat understand how Xiao Duo's karma came about. Zhuo Changlu sighed. You suspect the origin of the gourds? Wu Yuding asked. Zhuo Zhanglu said with a serious look in his eyes. If my guess is correct, and the origin of that pair of gourds is as I think, then the karma on little Duo's body is going to be huge. At the very least, it's going to break the heavens. Wu Yuding pondered for a moment and said, but according to legend, there are only 7 gourds, and each has its own master. Regardless of appearance, power, or attribute, they are completely different from the 2 small gourds. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Zhuo Changlu nodded thoughtfully and said, it's what you're thinking. That makes me a little uncertain. Wu Yuding could understand that he was unsure. On the other hand, heaven was also uncertain. Now I finally know the origin of the demon clan's fate in him. Zhuo Changlu looked at the soul true fire burning fiercely in the lightning tribulation. His eyes were solemn and even a little emotional. That 3-legged bird. Looks like a crow, right? Wu Yuding was stunned. 3-legged golden crow. Yes, it's the 3-legged golden crow. But the 3-legged golden crow is the bloodline of the demon emperor. How did Xiao Duo get it? This. I don't know. Zhuo Changlu said. Suddenly, his eyes focused. The 2 of them looked at each other and suddenly blurted out at the same time. Crown Prince Academy. If that's the case. Wu Yuding was shocked. This is the demon clan's crown prince who died. Zhuo Changlu only felt a little toothache. This. I don't dare to say. Wu Yuding slapped her forehead. By the way, what's that green light? That's the extremely abundant life origin energy. We know that Gouda has many secret methods, and that strange stone is one of them. But we didn't expect him to have such a backup. If we trace the origin of the green light and infer its true power, I'm afraid that it's even more powerful than us. Wu Yuding said. After the tribulation, we'll interrogate him properly. He's our son. What can't we find out? Yes, I'm thinking too much. By the way, that black light seems to be the source of karma that binds the demon clan. Wu Yuding immediately thought of this. Zhuo Changlu's mouth twitched. He said, that thing is also evil. I'm afraid that it doesn't only represent the demon clan, but also the demon ancestor. My father. Wu Yuding immediately knew that she had misunderstood. Her eyes widened. Ancient demon ancestor. The god-killing spear. That should be it. Zhuo Zhanglu nodded. Just a little bit of black qi is enough to evolve into a weapon with such a murderous aura. It's so fierce, and its demonic flames overflowing into the sky. Since time immemorial, only one weapon could have such a strange power. It's the god-killing spear, known as the world's #1 murderous aura. Even the legendary Yuan-Tu and immortal slaying weapons are inferior to it in terms of murderous aura and ferocity. Wu Yuding was even more speechless. The little dog actually had so many treasures on him. It was not wrong for the dragon phoenix tribulation to strike him like this. According to ancient legends, in ancient times, the dragons, phoenixes, and Qilins ruled the world. Later on, the war between the dragons and phoenixes was the beginning of the dragon phoenix tribulation. However, the end of the war between the dragons and phoenixes was a lose-lose situation. It was also because of this that the ancient demon court and the Wu people rose. After that war, the dragons and phoenixes were unable to recover. No one knew what exactly happened. It was already difficult to verify. However, whether it was the ancient demon ancestor or the demon emperor brothers, they had all placed their pieces in the great calamity back then and pushed the war between the 2 races. It was certain. Then, more or less, it was difficult to avoid subtle karma. Now that the dragon phoenix tribulation had arrived, the demon ancestor's weapon had appeared, and the demon emperor's crown prince had also appeared. Wouldn't the dragon phoenix tribulation in the sky strike you to death? Would you be left to give birth to children? This little dog. Wu Yuding was helpless. Let's continue watching. Zhuo Changlu sighed. I think there should be more surprises coming one after another. After all, this is only the fourth one. The fourth lightning tribulation ended. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body recovered in the air, and the green light gradually dissipated. A dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry resounded in the sky together. Light flashed, and the fifth lightning tribulation arrived as expected. With the previous experience, Xiao carried Bai and Jiu without fear. She turned into the Grand Sun True Fire again and rushed forward. But this time, it didn't even manage to withstand a single blow. As soon as she rushed into the lightning tribulation, Xiao let out an extremely miserable cry. On one side of the lightning tribulation, the extremely handsome phoenix suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a ball of red light. Damn crow, there was actually another one here. You're going to be reborn. Xiao was immediately wrapped in red light from head to toe. She was burning and filled with the fragrance of roasted meat as she fell down. On the other hand, Bai and Jiu rushed into the lightning tribulation due to inertia. Xiao, who was tragically engulfed by the red light, hovered in the air. The red light continued to rise, and the red was magnificent. It was so red that it dazzled people. You won't believe me if I say that I'm exhausted. But there's no other way. There's still more than an hour to double the votes. Also, please be thick-skinned and ask for tips. It's said that the monthly votes for tips have increased by 4 times during this period of time. The goal of the mission is difficult, please help me. Today, I hope everyone has a good time. I thought I could finish writing about the tribulation, but in the end, I still left something unfinished. Chapter 1189. Xiao screamed miserably. Xiao's wings flapped crazily on both sides. The Grand Sun primordial fire in its body gushed out layer by layer, but it could not break through the blockade of the red flame. Until the Grand Sun primordial fire accumulated to the point of almost exploding. Finally, a wisp of white flame broke through the red light. More Grand Sun primordial fire came out, burning fiercely. The red light covering the body gradually disintegrated. Finally, boom! All the Grand Sun primordial fire burst out, like a huge sun rising in the sky. Xiao fell to the ground, dying. Its feathers were all roasted. Its naked body was pockmarked, cleaner than a bald chicken in a pot of boiling water. The 3 legs quickly ran in the direction of Zhuo Xiaoduo. His mouth was croaking, and his eyes were filled with panic and fear. It was terrified. It was roasted into a bald bird. Just a little bit more, and he would have been cooked. Mama, 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 it hurts so much, I'm scared to death. I want kisses, hugs, and hugs. Boo-hoo. Who would have thought that I would be roasted one day? Sigh. Zhuo Changlu sighed, the Nirvana True Fire. Sure enough, the phoenix has made a move. In front of the phoenix, even the 3-legged golden crow has to retreat. What nonsense are you talking about? Wu Yuding was unhappy and said, you didn't see that the little crow hasn't grown up yet. It will be more powerful than the phoenix when it grows up. Wu Yuding had never met the 3-legged golden crow, but since it was her son's pet, it was naturally good. Zhuo Changlu, how dare you belittle my son's pet? Zhuo Changlu smiled calmly and said, it makes sense. I think so too. His face was expressionless. Under the tribulation thunder. The 5th tribulation thunder struck Zhuo Xiaoduo's chest faster than the 4th. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo's dantian on his chest and back fell into a state of melting and disappearing, inch by inch. Without any delay, the green aura of vitality appeared once again and quietly landed on Zhuo Xiaoduo's limbs that had been completely refined. The green light was still very strong. Even though it was constantly being burned into smoke, it was still able to protect his limbs. After the fifth thunder tribulation, Zhuoxiaoduo's body reassembled and regained its human form. After the fourth lightning tribulation, the endless green life force also dealt with the fifth lightning tribulation. Aoo! At this moment, Zhuoxiaoduo finally let out its first howl. His face was contorted and his muscles were spasming. It was too painful. She hadn't called him out ever since she came in. Pu, two little fellows, one white and one black, fell from the sky and entered the divine sense space in a flash. Obviously, these two little fellows had reached their limits and were unable to continue for a while. However, even though the tribulation lightning was so violent, Bai and Jiu were able to advance and retreat with ease. However, the sixth dragon phoenix tribulation lightning still fell from the sky. Zhuoxiaoduo still could not move. This time, there was no grand sun primordial flame, nor was there a white and black figure appearing above their heads. However, there was a flash of light, and sword energy soared into the sky. Another sword appeared above Zhuoxiaoduo's head in a dazzling manner. It stood in the sky, and its sword light flashed in all directions, as if it was the ruler of the world. The sixth lightning tribulation lightning was halfway through its descent, and it was about to hit the sword when something unprecedented happened. With a puff, it made a turn and missed its target. The lightning tribulation lightning crashed down into the bottomless abyss with a loud boom. The mountains and valleys rumbled for a long time without end. The lightning tribulation lightning missed its target. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding froze at the sight of this. Their eyes were glazed over, and they felt like they were in a fantasy. This was completely beyond their common sense. Without the intervention of external forces, there was no way the lightning tribulation lightning could miss its target. But now, it actually missed its target. It was obvious that the lightning tribulation lightning missed its target after seeing this sword. In other words, the lightning tribulation lightning was afraid of this sword. It didn't dare to strike it. What the hell, what? What kind of sword is that? Or rather, whose sword is it? How could it be so majestic? Even more ridiculous things happened one after another. The seventh lightning tribulation lightning also missed its target and didn't greet the sword. Could it be a lightning rod? Zhuo Xiaonian asked innocently. Lightning rod. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were speechless. Little girl, how did you advance to your current cultivation realm with your IQ? How could you say such a stupid thing? If there was such an awesome lightning rod in the world, even a flood would need it. This should be an instrument of virtue. Zhuo Changlu sighed and gave the only answer he knew. Before he could finish his sentence, he subconsciously touched the 40-meter-long saber in his ring. Then, he looked at the majestic Huahuang sword in the sky and couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. I've been at the top for my whole life, and I still don't have as many good things as my son. My name doesn't sound as good as my son's either. From now on, I'll be called Zhuo Changlu. Long road. Sounds better than Xiao Duo. Right? Zhuo Changlu sighed for a long time. Then, he saw Bai and Jiu's bodies flashing with green light. They rushed out energetically and hung on to the Huahuang sword, trembling as if they were urging something. The Huahuang sword had no choice but to rush into the eighth lightning tribulation lightning with the two little ones. After sending Bai and Jiu into the lightning tribulation, the Huahuang sword disappeared. It was a special existence that shouldn't appear in the heavenly tribulation. The Huahuang sword had a heaven-nourishing merit left on it. It wasn't that the heavenly tribulation couldn't hurt it, but it didn't dare to. Because it was kind to the heavenly Tao. Because of this reason, it either didn't appear or blocked the heavenly tribulation lightning. However, the Huahuang sword chose to stand out and block the two lightning tribulations because it now understood its new master's temper. As an item of merit, it was understandable that it didn't go out to block the heavenly tribulation lightning. But now, all the other treasures went out to block the heavenly tribulation. If it insisted on staying here and sleeping indifferently, it could imagine what kind of treatment it would receive in the future. This guy might do something like directly soak it in a cesspool forever. This was a real possibility. In this kid's eyes, its status was far inferior to his pair of hammers. After considering the consequences, the Huahuang sword made a decisive choice. It temporarily put down its position and helped Xiao. Seeing that the Huahuang sword had disappeared, the 8th lightning tribulation lightning finally rushed down and grabbed Zhuo Xiaoduo's head forcefully. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo had already experienced hundreds and thousands of reincarnation illusions. But its choice was still, or it could be said that its intestines were always open to the end. It was a path that was brash to the end. Under the protection of the flickering green, Zhuo Xiaoduo went from nothing to nothing, and from nothing to something again. A bald head that was like an egg that had just come out of its shell appeared under the flickering lightning tribulation lightning. And the pain that Zhuo Xiaoduo was enduring also rose to the extreme at this moment. With the return of Bianjiu, the 9th lightning tribulation lightning followed closely behind in an impatient manner. The 9th heavenly Tao lightning tribulation that was following behind was even more terrifying than the previous 8 heavenly Tao lightning tribulations combined. It was continuous like a dragon, almost similar to the golden dragon that had just appeared. It was incomparably huge, like the might of the heavens. Even though the greenery was still endless, could it really withstand it? Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding's hearts were in their throats. Zhuo Changlu was even more determined. If something went wrong, he would still follow the original plan and give up the throne Dharma body to blow up the last lightning tribulation dragon. Unexpectedly, at the last moment, a huge dragon formed purely out of fog wriggled out of Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. Suddenly, its body was tens of thousands of feet long, comparable to the lightning tribulation dragon in the sky. Compared to the golden dragon and the phoenix from before, it was a tripartite balance of power. A silent dragon roar resounded through the void. This was a sound that no one could hear, but all of them knew and felt. A dragon roared into the sky just now. Above the lightning tribulation, the golden dragon's eyes flashed. Rumble. Endless lightning tore the fog dragon into pieces. Once again, it fell on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. It was still flickering, full of green, from nothing to something. This process may have taken a long time, or even a short while, but finally, it was over. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that the indestructible barrier in his body was suddenly smashed into pieces like a piece of glass that had been smashed by a hammer. It could no longer be sustained. Boundless spiritual energy immediately rushed over like a tsunami. His whole body also floated up after the 9th lightning tribulation lightning disappeared. The wounds all over his body were all healed in an instant. There was no part of his body that was not at ease. A comfortable feeling suddenly emerged and flowed throughout his body. I'm flying. I'm flying. Ow ow ow. Zhuo Xiaoduo couldn't help but laugh. He roared into the sky, waved his hands, and said incoherently, so good, I've succeeded. I've survived the lightning tribulation. As expected of me, I'm still me. Wu Yuding was anxious and angry at the same time. Stupid. There's more. It's not over yet. Zhuo Xiaoduo was stunned when he heard this. He thought that his breakthrough meant that the lightning tribulation was over. There's more. When he looked up, he saw that not only was the tribulation eye in the sky still there, but it seemed to be bigger than before and was slowly rotating again. This rotation was very slow and very condensed. Endless spiritual energy rapidly gathered into the tribulation eye, obviously preparing for the next wave of attack. The golden dragon reappeared, and its huge head stared at Zhuo Xiaoduo from beside the tribulation eye. The phoenix also appeared and hovered on the other side of the tribulation eye, also watching Zhuo Xiaoduo. For some reason, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that the dragon and the phoenix's gazes were somewhat complicated. What's going on? At this moment, a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry sounded at the same time. Then, the golden dragon soared into the sky and hovered together with the phoenix. Then at the same time, it turned into the purest energy and poured into the tribulation eye. The sky suddenly became cloudless, and only a huge tribulation eye was left, ready to attack. Obviously, this was going to be an unprecedented attack. Zhuo Xiaoduo jumped in fright as he felt a pressure that could destroy heaven and earth. He immediately panicked. There was no way he could withstand this lightning tribulation. Chapter 1190. This was the final blow, the final test, and also the final baptism. The next step was to succeed. It was to transcend. If he couldn't withstand it, he would die. He would die and his Tao would vanish. Everyone knew this. However, the power of this single bolt of tribulation lightning was so great that even Zhuo Zhanglu felt threatened by it. The energy in the eye of the tribulation was still gathering. It was getting bigger and bigger, flickering between life and death. The power of the wind and clouds in the sky was sucked into the eye of the tribulation. Zhuo Xiaoduo gritted his teeth and stood firmly on the ground. He held the cat's hammer in his hand and locked his mind on the cat's spirit sword. He even pressed the small piece of the heaven-mending stone under his tongue. He was going to face the attack with his strongest and even most extraordinary state. Bai and Jiu went into the hammers with a whoosh. Yan Shixi struggled to stay in position in the cat's spirit sword. Seeing that his condition had reached its peak, Zhuo Xiaoduo shouted, "Let's go all out. Fight!" Xiao staggered over and raised his head. He flapped his featherless wings pitifully, revealing his bare buttocks as he gestured, "Mama, I really want to kill the thief now, but I can't do anything about it." Looking at the charged Xiao, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he could eat this guy directly if it wasn't for the two small round eyes that were still rolling around. The texture was crunchy, but the taste might not be good. After all, he was completely charred. In view of this, Zhuo Xiaoduo moved his mind and put Xiao into the Tower of Annihilation. At this moment, in just half a breath, the eye of the tribulation in the sky increased by at least 30%. What did it mean for a sphere to increase by 30%? Although Zhuo Xiaoduo was not bad at mathematics, he couldn't make a fundamental difference. However, the increase in threat was definitely not as simple as 30%. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was already feeling guilty, instinctively sighed and summoned the Huahuang sword. This time, the sword of Emperor Envihua didn't retreat because the last lightning tribulation ignored everything. Normally, the heavenly tribulation should have ended after the previous lightning tribulation. However, this additional lightning tribulation was the greatest fortune and opportunity. As long as they could withstand it, there would be great rewards for any weapon or life that participated in the resistance. A bolt of lightning from the heavens to the earth. Xiaolong's misty body, which appeared for the first time in the world, circled around Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. Zhuo Xiaoduo thought about it and still felt that it was not enough. It was not safe enough. He then took out the heaven and earth treasures that Wu Yuding had given him. He didn't care whether it was a waste or not, and stuffed a dozen of them into his stomach. Let them ferment. Oh no, hurry up and release your spiritual energy. As for the Skysore Realm cultivator, 1 pill was enough for him to fully recover. He even swallowed 8 pills in one go. Feeling that it was not enough, he swallowed another 10 pills as if he was eating jelly beans. After asking for Little White's and Little Joe's permission, he also extracted a little bit of the ocean-like origin's spiritual energy in his sea of consciousness. It wasn't that Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't want to extract more, but the quality of the life origin energy was too high. Zhuo Xiaoduo couldn't control it at all. Even with the help of Xiaolong and Xiaolong, he could only use a little bit of it. But at this point, Zhuo Xiaoduo still felt that it wasn't safe. To be absolutely safe, he took out the emerald green wooden tablet that Elder Wan gave him and muttered, "Elder Wan, boss, you have to help me this time." Before he could finish his sentence, he crushed the emerald green wooden tablet, and a ball of green light rose up. In an instant, the entire mountain was covered with grasshopper plants. Well, in the modern realm, it should be called purslane. Patches of green spread out rapidly, covering a radius of several thousand li in an instant. Even the feet of Zhuo Changlu and the others were covered with grasshopper plants. The leaves grew thicker and thicker, and they continued to grow. Then, small red by flowers bloomed all of a sudden. Although a single red and white flower didn't have a strong fragrance, when so many flowers bloomed together, the fragrance was naturally refreshing and intoxicating. The grasshopper under his feet grew bigger and bigger, blooming and growing continuously. After a while, it simply climbed up Zhuo Xiaoduo's body, turning his entire body into a green oily color. After a few breaths of time, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body also started to bloom. The fragrance started to spread, refreshing everyone's heart. Not only was this unforeseen change sudden and unexpected, but it was also mysterious. Or rather, it was too strange. Even the tribulation eye in the sky couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. It stopped spinning for about half a second. Although it started spinning again immediately. This short pause was very clear. Obviously, even the tribulation lightning was speechless. That kid down there. Do you know what you're doing? If you just let us strike you one last time, we'd be done with it. But now, you've created so many things. What are you trying to do? If we strike you too lightly, I'm afraid you'll explode from these things that you've set up yourself. Damn, how afraid of death is he? Is this really the same person as the brat that we trained before who only knew how to act recklessly? Where did the heroic spirit, the valiant and unafraid of death, the sword of no return, the person who exterminated the world, go? Could it be that he had a split personality, or that he had two souls in one body? How strange. Then, there was another rumbling sound. Heaven and earth were filled with endless white light. At this moment, white light, purple light, and colorful light. It flew in all directions, and heaven and earth were burning. Even Zhuo Changlu and his wife couldn't see anything. It was really too bright. An unprecedentedly huge lightning ball fell down like a mountain. In just a moment, it smashed down on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. Boom. At this moment, even Zhuo Changlu was dumbfounded by the collision. Even his body started to shake. At that moment, he clearly saw the grasshopper plants thousands of miles away fly up from the ground. Although it was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree, it still charged forward bravely. Yes, but in terms of momentum, it was really not inferior to the tribulation lightning of the heavenly law. Some plants, the most common grasshopper plants, could burst out the power comparable to the tribulation lightning of the heavenly realm. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, would he believe it? Zhuo Changlu wanted to say that he wouldn't believe it even if he saw it with his own eyes. How could there be such crazy and cool grasshopper plants in this world? Were they trying to defy the heavens? Then, the spiritual sword that was full of the aura of the emperor rushed straight into the tribulation clouds. There was also the cat spirit sword that was mixed with the essence of the demonic aura. The demonic flames surged into the sky and shot into the tribulation clouds. The two cat hammers also circled and rotated, like a black and white Tai Chi diagram, and its power hit the tribulation clouds. There seemed to be some other lights flashing. In short, countless lights burst out at the same time and exploded. Rumble. The extreme impact from heaven and earth, the death cliff, which was the foothold, suddenly collapsed because it couldn't bear it anymore. A huge amount of gravel rushed into the sky, and many even rushed out tens of thousands of meters in one breath. With the sound of thunder, the whole sky was covered with dark clouds, and it started to rain crazily. The raindrops directly connected into a line. In just a moment, a vast ocean had accumulated on the ground, as if the heavenly Duke was suddenly angry and poured a basin of water from above. Or maybe the heavenly river suddenly burst, and countless raindrops fell into the human world, instantly forming a country of water. However, the tribulation was already over. The tribulation eye in the sky had already disappeared after the last tribulation lightning struck. Duo. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding saw that the tribulation was over, and they shouted together and started to rush towards Zhuo Xiaoduo. They could finally move. Also, both of them felt that their son's life force was still there, but it was very weak. At this moment, they were extremely excited. Wu Yuding rushed 2 steps and suddenly stopped. She turned her head and looked at her daughter strangely. Zhuo Xiaonian was in a daze at this moment. And her hair. Why did it explode? Zhuo Xiaonian's beautiful hair now looked like a chicken nest that had been crazily scratched by 7 or 8 chickens. It was a mess that it could be said that. If there were 30 million strands of hair on a head, then at this moment, 30 million strands of hair on Zhuo Xiaonian's head were pointing in 30 million directions. Nian Nian. Wu Yuding was stunned. What happened to you? Zhuo Xiaonian pursed her lips and cried, I don't know what happened. Just now, the last tribulation lightning suddenly split off and hit me. It hurts. Wu Yuding was shocked and inexplicably frightened. Hit you? Why didn't I notice? It was clearly right beside me, but I didn't notice that my daughter was struck by lightning, that this was simply. Are you okay? Wu Yuding asked hurriedly. I'm fine. Zhuo Xiaonian was completely unprepared to be hit. She felt wronged and her image was ruined, but she really didn't suffer any injuries. Why did this goddamn heavenly tribulation strike me? Oh right. The tribulation lightning seems to have given me something. Zhuo Xiaonian scratched her head and muttered to herself. What is it? Wu Yuding was stunned for a moment. She didn't know what to think, but she couldn't help but reach out and touch her daughter's butt. Mom, what are you doing? Zhuo Xiaonian immediately escaped as if she had been electrocuted. She rolled her eyes and pouted. It's blurry, I'm still sorting it out. But it seems to be called Snow Phoenix Divine Phoenix. Snow Phoenix Divine Phoenix. Wu Yuding muttered to herself. This seemed to be something she had never heard of. What happened? What did it say? No. Zhuo Xiaonian anxiously stretched her neck and looked to the other side. How's Duo? Wu Yuding's heart palpitated, and she seemed to be thinking about something. Her eyes were full of reminiscence, and she didn't hear Zhuo Xiaonian's question. Zhuo Xiaonian came to her senses. She tidied her hair and rushed out. Chapter 1191. Zhuo Changlu, Lei Changtian, and Bai Yunduo appeared at the location of Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation almost as soon as the eye of the thunder tribulation disappeared. Then, with a wave of his hand, countless pieces of gravel, no less than hundreds of millions, flew out in all directions. Then, they saw the huge pit that was 1,000 meters deep below. Zhuo Xiaoduo was in the middle of the huge pit. His whole body was as black as charcoal, and he was lying in the dust. No one knew if he was dead or alive. On the other hand, all the things that helped him overcome the tribulation earlier had vanished without a trace. The grasshopper plants that originally covered an area of thousands of kilometers had vanished without a trace. They'd vanished without a trace. The heavy rain continued to pour down from the sky, and a large amount of rainwater poured into the huge pit that had just been emptied. Zhuo Changlu waved his hand, and the huge pit suddenly became dry as if it had been dry for 10 years. No matter how fierce the surrounding rainwater was, it couldn't enter the pit at all. Zhuo Changlu couldn't wait to jump down and carefully picked up Zhuo Xiaoduo. Then, his expression relaxed, and his eyes flashed with ecstasy. He returned to his normal state and said indifferently, let's go back. Well, the usual minister was back. In a flash, he had already arrived in Shangjing City. In another flash, he was already in Zhuo Xiaonian's small courtyard. Next to the bed in the bedroom, he gently put down Zhuo Xiaoduo and settled him down properly. In the process of returning to Shangjing and Zhuo Xiaonian's small courtyard, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was covered with healing elixirs. He even gave him 2 pills that could be taken orally. He even helped Zhuo Xiaoduo circulate his energy to catalyze the healing process. He was indeed a considerate father who was meticulous in every possible way. Lei Changtian rushed in hurriedly, how is it? It's okay. I passed it smoothly. Zhuo Changlu's mouth curved into a smile, and said, you are indeed my son. You survived such a fierce tribulation by yourself. Lei Changtian couldn't stop smiling. You are indeed my biological grandson. You have the support of my excellent genes. Zhuo Changlu's face darkened. He said coldly, Lei Changtian's heart skipped a beat, and his face paled. He hurriedly said, what I mean is, boss gave birth to the best, Xiao Duo gave birth to the best, and I'm the best, ha ha ha. Wu Yuding came back with Zhuo Xiaonian and Bai Yun Duo. Before she entered the house and heard nothing, she said, Old Zhuo, can you not bully my father? Zhuo Zhanglu was so angry that his whole body trembled. When did I bully him? How am I bullying him? Lei Changtian nodded and bowed. He said carefully, boss is right. I didn't bully you, I didn't bully you. Rainy, why are you so paranoid like those secular women? It will affect the relationship between husband and wife. Look, there's no wound on my face at all. Wu Yuding rolled her eyes speechlessly. Then, she rushed to the bedside. Duo, how is my Duo? He's fine. He got through it peacefully. His injuries are a little heavy, so he needs to rest. I've already taken care of his injuries. I promise I'll give you a lively eldest son in one night at most. Zhuo Changlu smiled. He was very gratified. Ha! Wu Yuding laughed. She praised, how can I be wrong about little doggy? He's my biological son, and he has the support of my excellent genes. Everyone was speechless. When you were nervous just now, you said, my son Duo. Now that you're relaxed, Duo has become little doggy. The change in tone was seamless. The change in tone was exceptionally natural and smooth. Bai Yun Duo couldn't help but imagine, if I have a child with little tiger, what should I name him? Little Tiger. She felt that a sounded very auspicious. Wu Yuding confirmed that Zhuo Xiaoduo's life was not in danger. She paused and asked nervously, how's the calamity? Is it? In fact, she already had the answer in her heart. However, she still felt that her idea was too perfect. It was wishful thinking, so she didn't dare to say it out loud. She had to get confirmation from her husband. Zhuo Changlu smiled and said clearly, affirmatively, blissfully, and decisively. Perfect. He had a proud look on his face. Ha ha ha. Wu Yuding was so excited that she went crazy. She didn't hide it and laughed loudly. She didn't care that Zhuo Xiaoduo was still unconscious. She rushed up to Zhuo Xiaoduo and kissed him on the face. My son is awesome. He's worthy of being called the little doggy with my excellent genes. Ha ha ha. This is great. He passed the heavenly tribulation perfectly. Perfect. Since ancient times, no one has done it. Moreover, it's the heavenly dragon phoenix tribulation. Oh my God, I was scared to death. But my son did it. He passed it perfectly. At this moment, Wu Yuding's sense of accomplishment and pride was simply bursting through the roof. At this moment, she couldn't wait to announce to the whole world. My son passed the heavenly tribulation perfectly. Heavenly tribulation. Envy. Envy. Ha 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 ha. Zhuo Xiaonian squeezed past Wu Yuding and looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo attentively. She wanted to go up and touch him but was stopped by Wu Yuding. She asked worriedly, little doggy, are you okay? It's fine, it's fine. As your mother, I promise that I'll return you a healthy and good husband tomorrow. Wu Yuding's mood was relaxed at this moment, so she joked with her daughter and let herself loose. Zhuo Xiaonian twisted her waist and wanted to pout, but she was immediately attracted by Zhuo Xiaoduo's skin. She said enviously, little doggy, your skin is so white and tender now. There's not even a strand of hair. How did you do it? Wu Yuding and the others were stunned. They all looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo and saw that his skin was really white and tender. In a short period of time, the scorched black appearance of the heavenly tribulation had changed. It was like a freshly cooked tofu or a freshly peeled boiled egg. His skin was really too smooth. It was white with a hint of red. It was different. Not to mention strand of hair, even his eyebrows and eyelashes were gone. Well, to put it bluntly, it was an oversized egg. Everyone thought and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Let him have a good rest. When he wakes up, everything will be fine. Zhuo Changlu said in a low voice. Okay. Zhuo Xiaonian was still worried. She raised her hand and said, I want to stay and watch him. Wu Yuding said, yes, we have to take a good look. Daughter, let me tell you, the puppy is really flying now. The previous restrictions are gone, and we can consummate our marriage. Miss Cat, daughter-in-law. Zhuo Xiaonian's face suddenly turned red, as if blood was about to drip out. She twisted her waist. She covered her hot face and rushed into her room like a gust of wind, refusing to come out. Hey! Didn't you want to stay and watch your little doggy? Wu Yuding shouted. I don't want to watch him. I don't want to watch him. Who wants to watch him? Tell him to stay away from me. A shy voice came from inside. It sounded stuffy, as if she was hiding under the quilt. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. They were all immersed in the happy atmosphere of children and forgot about their worries. In all fairness, although Zhuo Xiaoduo had passed the heavenly tribulation, his injuries were not light at all. Almost 90% of his bones were broken. From the perspective of the secular world, even if he didn't die, he would be paralyzed for life. However, when Zhuo Changlu picked him up, he had been given a large amount of healing pills. Coupled with the self-recovery ability of a high-level Skysoar realm cultivator, he was now lying on the bed. His body was flickering with 9-colored light. Occasionally, red light and purple light would alternate, and occasionally, white light and black light would surround him. It was a sign that his injuries were getting better and his bones were gradually healing. The newly healed bones were also extraordinary. One could clearly see that they had a jade-like texture and were flickering with a faint purple light. In fact, it wasn't just his bones. All the newly healed meridians, and blood vessels were all flowing with a faint purple light. This was a gift from the heavenly Tao. It was also a great blessing bestowed by the heavenly Tao after surviving the heavenly tribulation. Just like that, he lay on the bed. His body was gradually recovering, and his injuries were getting better bit by bit. Some light gray things were constantly seeping out of his pores. These were the impurities that had seeped into his bone marrow during the marrow cleansing. The impurities were difficult to come into contact with even medicinal energy and elemental energy. They were all forced out by the heavenly tribulation. Apart from the bone marrow, there were also impurities deep in his internal organs. And even in his brain. In short, after the heavenly tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo had truly changed from the inside to the outside. Of course, if this fellow ate and drank like an ordinary person, new impurities would be formed. This was an unavoidable situation no matter what stage and level one's cultivation had reached. Even if one didn't eat or drink and lived on the wind and dew, one still had to breathe and cultivate. There would still be many impurities that would invade one's body. Using the simplest example, before one ascended to the heavens, one's cultivation would be extremely pure. However, after ascending to the heavens, one's cultivation would become full of impurities. This was because no matter how pure one's spiritual energy and vital energy were, it was inevitable that there would be some impurities mixed in. Even this little bit of impurities was no longer compatible with the body of an immortal. In order to achieve the true meaning of being free of impurities, one had to reach the level of a legendary saint. Only then could one be truly free of impurities and be pure and flawless. To use a more common saying as an analogy, even if it was a little fairy, she still had to take a dump. His body automatically adjusted itself while he was unconscious, automatically expelling the impurities. Everything was natural. This was the gift of the heavenly tribulation, and the benefits were still continuing. Wu Yuding stayed behind to look after Zhuo Xiaoduo. Zhuo Changlu, on the other hand, had an indifferent look on his face, as if he didn't care about his son at all. He invited Lei Changtian out for tea. Bai Yunduo naturally followed to serve him. After Bai Yunduo left, Wu Yuding quietly lifted the blanket and checked the other parts of Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. After confirming that there were no mistakes, she heaved a sigh of relief and covered herself with the blanket. Yes, everything was fine. Everything was fine. That was really good. Looking at the sleeping Zhuo Xiaoduo, Wu Yuding's eyes were full of love. Sigh, how did I give birth so well? I actually gave birth to such a good son. And he's so handsome, so obedient, so upright, so honest, so cute, so simple, so honest, such a genius son. In this world, who dares to compare their son with mine? Who dares to compare their husband with mine? Who dares to compare their son with mine? Ahem, forget it. There's no need to compare their father. But who dares to compare their daughter with mine? Comparing their son-in-law. Comparing their daughter-in-law. Comparing their disciples. Wu Yuding suddenly felt that in this world, she was really the biggest winner. She had a truly perfect life. She couldn't help but feel even more proud. Chapter 1192. Zhuo Xiaoduo seemed to be unconscious, but his consciousness was still wandering in the illusion. As time passed, new illusions were constantly produced. The embers of the dragon phoenix tribulation. The resentment of the dragons and phoenixes was still not over. In the final stage of the ancient battle between the dragons and phoenixes, either both husband and wife died, or only one of them was left. Very rarely, there were both husband and wife. In fact, many clans were wiped out. There was no doubt that the dragons and phoenixes, as the protagonists of the first tribulation of the Dragon Han, were not limited to just the dragons and phoenixes. Instead, they included a wide range of clans. For example, the dragons had 9 sons, such as Tao Tai, Pixiu, and Chao Feng. The phoenixes also had descendants, such as Qing Wan, Vermilion Bird, Peacock, and Dapeng. The greatest resentment towards the dragon phoenix tribulation was that the wings of a mandarin duck were broken, leaving only a single shadow. And now, this was what Zhuo Xiaoduo had the most illusions that he was constantly experiencing, at the bottom of the death cliff. It was miserable. At the bottom of the death cliff, it was filled with devastation and endless misery. The Huahuang sword rushed out to help and successfully diverted 2 heavenly tribulations. However, it did not eliminate the 2 heavenly tribulations completely. The 2 heavenly tribulations that fell by the side rushed to the bottom of the cliff and the end of the valley. The tribulation lightning had a characteristic, which was that it was extremely targeted. Because of this, it had another characteristic, which was that this kind of target could only be effective if it was a living creature. At that moment, the tribulation lightning that fell by the side quickly reached the bottom of the cliff. At that time, there was a demonic beast at the bottom of the cliff. Although that demonic beast was burrowing its head deep into the ground, not daring to move at all, and even controlling its breathing rate to a barely discernible level, it was still wholeheartedly muttering, "Didn't discover me. Didn't discover me." However, he was still a living being after all. No matter how faint his breathing frequency was, he still existed. Therefore, after discovering the signs of a living being, the tribulation lightning that was aimed at him smashed on the back of his head without any accident. At that moment, a certain demonic beast was stunned. What did I do? What did I do? Why did it suddenly happen? It didn't even leave me any room to prepare beforehand. At least let me know that the tribulation lightning had discovered me and locked onto me. Why did the lightning strike directly at the target? However, he soon felt that the power of this tribulation lightning didn't seem to be very strong. Then, he quickly realized that the original target of the lightning tribulation wasn't him. It just missed its target. The lightning tribulation was targeted at a child with a weak cultivation. Of course, it didn't mean anything to him. Well, that wasn't the main point. The main point was why the lightning tribulation missed its target. The only explanation was that this kid must have an item of virtue on him. Fuck, that brat actually has an item of virtue on him? I really can't imagine it. I've seen that kid up close. With his shallow cultivation, he actually has an item of virtue and can even use it in this kind of atmosphere, causing the lightning tribulation to deviate and bring disaster to the innocent bystanders. It's really fucked up. But only in this way would the tribulation lightning miss its target without any warning. He also knew that after the tribulation lightning missed, it would instinctively choose the left side of this kid and continue to strike towards the same creatures. Although it wasn't close to the kid, according to the kid's position, it was as if the kid was directly on top of its head. Therefore, the tribulation lightning missed its target by a few centimeters and landed on the back of its head. Who asked its head to be so big? When it understood this point, the demonic beast forcibly endured the intense pain and silently told itself, I don't feel pain. I don't feel pain. I can take it, I can take it. It was really able to withstand it. Not only did it feel comforted, but even if it was caught off guard, it would only cause a big hole to appear on the back of its head after being hit by the lightning. The target of the tribulation lightning wasn't it. Even if it was a perfect sky tribulation, the sky tribulation of the 9 clans, there was still a limit. At least, it couldn't reach the level of this demonic beast's own tribulation. Even if the destructive power was still intense, it couldn't harm its life. In other words, it just caused a lot of pain. But in the end, it inexplicably suffered such a big hole in its head. It was so big that it could almost plant a tree in it. Saying that it was very painful was already an understatement. But the demonic beast insisted on not moving. And didn't cry out. What if it really became the target of the tribulation lightning? The demonic beast obediently lay on the ground, feeling wronged and tearing up. This was really unlucky to the extreme. I was more obedient than a rock, but I still had to suffer a tribulation lightning. What was more pitiful was that I could only silently endure it. Not to mention moaning or crying out, I didn't even dare to heal myself. Just as it was feeling wronged, it suddenly heard a loud boom. The second tribulation lightning that was deflected came unexpectedly and smashed down, landing on the previous big hole with a thunderous sound. This time, it wasn't just an ordinary pain. The monstrous beast's entire body began to tremble. Several of its claws dug into the ground, digging out several other large pits. Its huge head was instantly filled with air. The big hole at the back of its head was directly connected to the front of its mouth. From front to back, the tyrannical tribulation lightning that was twice as strong as before even smashed a hole in the demonic beast's inner core. Streams of red and white brain matter mixed with the golden energy of the inner core flowed down like drooling. Clumps after clumps landed on the tattered body of the man on the ground, in his mouth. And in his wounds. In a moment, the demonic beast's brain matter was like a flash flood, completely enveloping the tattered body, drowning it. This wasn't enough, it wrapped up layer after layer, burying layer after layer. The demonic beast that suddenly suffered a heavy blow was so wrong that tears fell down. Since ancient times, was there any demon that was more wrong than me? I only asked one question, is there any more? Was there any demon that was more wrong than me? Heavenly tribulation. Can you still be reasonable? But I can't move, can't cry out, can't tremble, can't do anything. I don't even dare to heal myself. Its sorrowful eyes stared at its own brain matter and inner core that was continuously losing energy, sticking to the tattered body of the two-legged beast on the ground. Red light flickered. True essence flickered. Bit by bit, it merged into the body. Woo-woo. Hurry up and go through the tribulation and leave. As long as you leave early, I can still take back a little of the inner core's energy. As for the brain matter, it's fine if it's eaten. That's all external matter, it can be repaired. But the falling brain matter quickly condensed into a gelatinous jelly-like object, or a huge silkworm cocoon. In short, the red light flickered continuously. and disappeared. My energy. The inner core that I cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years. My brain matter. Looking at the jelly that had completely condensed, the demonic beast's heart was filled with sorrow. It couldn't bear it anymore, but it still had to bear it. Since ancient times, how many demonic beasts have watched their inner cores being swallowed by others, not daring to move, not daring to stop, and only watching blankly? Since ancient times, how many demonic beasts have watched their brains being eaten like tofu pudding? It's said that the heavenly Tao is fair and just, but how do I show it? Bah! I've really set a precedent in the demonic beast world. I've embarrassed the demonic beasts. No, I've embarrassed the demonic beasts. Woo-woo. How can I still be called the demonic beast of misfortune? How can I still be called the most annoying demon in the world? Woo-woo. I should have resisted. I should have exploded. I should have rushed out and wreaked havoc in the human world to vent my anger. It's just the heavenly Tao tribulation lightning of the Skysoar realm. It's a piece of cake. Why didn't I resist? Sigh. Forget it. It's already like this. How bad can it get? The demonic beast consoled itself. After all, the tribulation lightning wasn't really targeting me. It was just a mistake by the heavenly tribulation. Those who don't know can't be blamed. It's just a misunderstanding. Forget it, forget it. I'll just take it that the heavenly Tao owes me a favor. Who knows, I might be able to avoid being struck by 2 lightning bolts in the future. This is a gift from the heavenly Tao to me. It's just a small loss, and it'll be repaired in a few hundred, a few thousand, or even a few tens of thousands of years. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. This is the true karmic feedback. This is actually a source of fortune, an opportunity. I should be happy. Yes, I should be happy, I should be happy. But why can't I be happy? Finally, the heavenly tribulation was over. The demonic beast was sure that the heavenly tribulation was over, and the heavenly might had disappeared. However, it still waited for a while before daring to move. After all, the heavenly tribulation today didn't seem very reliable. What if it came back and found it after it left? It had already lived for hundreds of thousands of years. It couldn't be ruined by this. After another half an hour, it finally began to breathe a sigh of relief. It wailed in pain, it hurts so much. Fuck me. Heavenly tribulation, come again if you have the guts. I'll strike you alive. Fuck, it really hurts. As it vented, it hurriedly circulated its demonic energy to heal its injuries. This is too much of a bully. This is too much of a bully. This is too. There's simply no bottom line, no integrity, no persistence. Heavenly tribulation, where's your integrity? In the future, I'll definitely get it back from you. In the future, you must remember to strike me twice more today. I beg you. After a long time, the wound on the demonic beast's head healed. However, it couldn't help but gasp for breath weakly. Then, it raised its head and focused its gaze, looking at the huge cocoon beside its mouth. A cocoon formed from its own brain. Its gaze was complicated. In the end, it sighed bitterly, forget it. Even if it's a mistake, it's already left my mark. Even if I swallow it again, the benefits I can get back are also very limited. I'll only be reduced to a pile of shit and can't be turned back into brain matter. Sigh. I'll just take it as forming a good karma. Even though it had already made up its mind, that thick unwillingness still filled its heart and didn't go away for a long time. I feel wronged. Chapter 1193. Zhuo Xiaoduo's recovery process was faster than Zhuo Chenglu's expectations. In the middle of the night, his body had completely recovered, and his true essence continued to grow bit by bit. The Taoist rhyme in his body was still circulating, and he had not woken up yet. Wu Yuding suddenly remembered something. She pried open the kid's mouth and took out the heaven-mending stone. You shouldn't waste it like this. I'm afraid this stone can only be used a few more times. Wu Yuding sighed as she looked at the stone that was already a little gray. She already knew about the existence of this spirit stone. She also saw Zhuo Xiaoduo stuffing the stone into his mouth at the last moment during the heavenly tribulation. Obviously, he used the huge hidden vitality of the stone to heal his injuries and extend his life. Now, Zhuo Xiaoduo was able to recover much faster than Zhuo Changlu expected, mostly because of the spirit stone's attribute. However, this consumption was a waste. Because without this stone, the power of the heavenly Tao would naturally recover. This was not a matter of life and death. It was just a matter of time. However, the consumption of the spirit stone was difficult to make up for. Wu Yuding regretted the loss of the spirit stone. She placed it next to Zhuo Xiaoduo's pillow and sat on the edge of the bed. She stared at her son's sleeping face. No matter how she looked at it, it was cute. This tender. It was just like when he was just born. His red little mouth even moved when he was dreaming. Ah, so cute. How good would it be if he was always this cute? Unfortunately, as soon as this brat opened his eyes, he would transform into a lawless, shameless, and slippery person. He caused trouble every day and could be called a troublemaker. When he was caught, he would act cute and play dumb to get away with it. Sigh. I really don't know which life I owed you. Wu Yuding couldn't help but poke Zhuo Xiaoduo's forehead and scold him lovingly. Outside, Zhuo Changlu and Lei Changtian were already drinking. Zhuo Changlu sat high up on the sofa while Lei Changtian moved a small stool and sat opposite him. Both of them drank happily. After all, they were really happy and happy. They enjoyed themselves and forgot about their worries. They all felt that they were witnessing history and felt that their genes were really amazing. Bai Yunduo, the supervisor, was now playing the role of a maid. Whenever a cup was empty, she would fill it up. She was speechless from beginning to end, but she still tried her best to smile gently. Boss, back then, when we were in Black Wind Canyon. Second brother, it's not that I want to criticize you. Boss is right. Let's go. Let's go. Second brother, you said back then that. Is there such a thing? He. During Wang Feihong's battle back then, if you hadn't recklessly courted your own death and fought with Lai Hua to the point where both sides were heavily injured and almost died. The one who replaced Wang Feihong on the stage would have been you. If you ask me, it would have been better if I had done it. Wang Feihong's strength was much weaker than mine at that time. If I had done it, I might have been lucky enough not to die. Maybe none of this would have happened now. Besides, I didn't look for my own death. It was something that happened to me. I was also helpless. This is all fate. Who would have thought that Lai Hua and his wife would divorce and vent their anger on you? Speaking of which, what did you do? Why didn't Lai Hua look for someone else but you? I didn't do anything. If you didn't do anything, why did Lai Hua look for you? It's been so many years. Why don't you talk about it now? It's really nothing. You also said that it's a long time ago. Why bring it up? It's really nothing. Say it again. Cough, cough. Actually, Lai Hua's wife ran out to fight with Lai Hua and coincidentally met me. She took the initiative to provoke me. How could I let her go? So, the two of us started to fight. When we were fighting, I casually used the 1,000 Hands Sky Devil Claw. That's my specialty. So, it's understandable that I used it. Lei Zhangtian coughed. Zhuo Zhanglu's eyes widened. Then, he covered his face and said, I know. You tore her clothes with your special skill. Cough, cough. Yes. Actually, I didn't really tear her clothes. I just tore a piece of her skirt. Just a piece. Revealing half of her butt. But it was just an inch. Lai Huo went to look for her at that time and saw this scene. He couldn't stand it at that time. In the end, Lai Huo's psychological endurance was too weak. How could it be? I understand. Zhuo Changlu looked up and sighed. I was wondering why things were so strange back then. So that's why. So this was the truth. At that time, I had already explained everything to Raging Inferno. I said that even though I tore your wife's skirt, I really didn't do anything. The most important thing was that when you came over, we were still fighting. It's not like you caught me in bed. Why are you in such a hurry? But Lai Huo didn't listen. His eyes turned red. Lei Changtian said angrily, he couldn't reason with the Wu people. After that, we fought. How could I be afraid of him? Zhuo Zhanglu downed a cup of wine and let out a long sigh. This matter. It's not just the shaman tribe. Any man in the world who tried to reason with her at that time was bound to fail. Then, Wang Feihong had to fight. At that time, Lai Huo had been carried back by his wife. I was also unconscious. I didn't wake up until half a month after you guys finished fighting. This guy was too cruel. How could it be? Lei Zhangtian also felt regret for the past, regretting his past actions. If he had been there at that time, the situation would have been greatly improved. But in the end, such a thing happened. Who could he reason with? Who would have thought that the raging fire witch couple would be at odds with each other at that time, and he would be dragged into this mess? It was simply an unexpected disaster. Who would have thought that Lai Huo would come at such a coincidence? I just tore his wife's skirt, and he arrived. If it weren't for the UMNO Alliance guys who didn't have enough brains except when they were fighting, I would have suspected that they were playing tricks on me and deliberately preventing me from going to the battle. Lei Changtian was extremely depressed. Zhuo Zhanglu was speechless. Then, he scolded, any normal couple wouldn't use this to play a badger game with you. What is in your brain? How could you have such a brain circuit? After 3 jars of wine in a row, the two talked about the past and became more and more emotional. I still remember that time, I brought Raindrop into the team. At that time, we were really young and frivolous. At that time, I pointed to you and introduced you, that was your Uncle Zhua. Lei Changtian drank too much. Stop. Stop, stop. Zhuo Changlu reached out and stopped him. Why are you talking about the past? It's my fault, it's my fault. I'll punish myself with a jar. Just when they were drinking the most happily, Wu Yuding came out of the room and frowned, drinking again? It's just a small drink. Lei Changtian said, look, we just drank 1 jar. The second jar has just been opened, and it's still full. The 20 or so jars that had been emptied earlier had already been collected by 2 people who were familiar with the business. As habitual offenders, they definitely cleaned it up flawlessly. At the very least, they would rather let people know than see it, leaving room for their own justification. I don't believe the 2 of you. Wu Yuding snorted. As smart as she was, she naturally did not believe the nonsense of the 2 people in front of her. But obviously, she did not want to pursue the matter. She waved to Zhuo Changlu, come in, I have something to tell you. Let my father drink first. You can come in later. Tonight, you 2 are not restricted from drinking. Not restricted? How can there be no restrictions? Zhuo Zhanglu and Lei Zhangtian's eyes lit up. Of course, you can drink as much as you want. Okay. Zhuo Changlu stood up and went into the room with Wu Yuding. Hearing that there was no restriction on drinking, Lei Changtian immediately gained unprecedented courage. He said to Bai Yunduo, why are you so insensible? After drinking for so long, I didn't see you make any side dishes. Hurry up and prepare. Bai Yunduo rolled her eyes and hurried off. She knew the demon ancestor's way of doing things, so she did not take it to heart. In the room, Wu Yuding pulled Zhuo Changlu in, closed the door, and set up a soundproof enchantment. She said, "I've been looking for puppies for a long time. I've wanted to tell you something. Do you still remember how you found Nian cat?" Zhuo Zhanglu was puzzled. "How come I was the one who picked up Nian cat? Didn't we pick it up together? Back then, we transformed into the mortal world and walked around leisurely, looking at mountains and rivers. We wanted to see the beauty of the world from an ordinary person's point of view. Did we find Nian cat when we were wandering around the mountains near King Qi's tomb? Weren't you the one who saw it first? There were so many chicken feathers in a pile of withered branches. You went over and rummaged through it, and found a small meat egg." Zhuo Changlu said, "I say. Why are you asking me this at this time? You're making me confused, okay?" Zhuo Changlu was a little dissatisfied. It delayed the drinking that Wu Yuding thought for a while and said, "Was the situation not like this at that time? Let me ask you, do you still remember what you said at that time?" "Yes, I remember. At that time, I said that this family must be too poor to even prepare swaddling clothes for the child," Zhuo Changlu said. "Yes, that's what I said." Wu Yuding's brows suddenly relaxed. "And then? Then, you and I checked. The baby girl's bloodline and so on were all normal human. She wasn't the remains of a demon beast, nor was she the reincarnation of an immortal. Wait a minute. Even if you and I were in the state of transforming into the mortal world at that time, and didn't bring our cultivation with us, but we still had our foresight and experience. So, what's the problem?" Zhuo Zhanglu was full of confidence when he said these words. Wu Yuding nodded slowly. Indeed, it would be strange if a baby girl could hide from the eyes of the husband and wife. "Then do you remember that you said there were feathers on the baby girl's butt?" Wu Yuding said, "I remember there were 2 feathers." Zhuo Changlu did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Didn't they stick to her butt?" "2 feathers stuck to her soft butt. I pulled them off with my hand, okay?" Wu Yuding nodded. "Yes. What's wrong with you today? Why are you bringing up the past for no reason? Did something happen?" Zhuo Changlu asked. "Something did happen. I didn't have time to tell you. It was when Dwudwa's last thunder tribulation. A part of the heavenly tribulation thunder split off and struck little Nianer," Wu Yuding said. "Ah. There was actually such a thing. Is little Nianer okay?" Zhuo Changlu was stunned and asked hurriedly. Then, he realized that he had asked a silly question. He had seen Zhuo Xiaonian before, and she was perfectly fine. Well, her hair was a little messy, not as neat as it usually was. The power of that thunder tribulation thunder was not lethal. The main purpose was to pass on an inheritance to little Nianer. "The inheritance of the Phoenix clan," Wu Yuding said. "Ah. How could that be?" Zhuo Changlu was really shocked this time. That was the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation could not be selfish. If the heavenly tribulation was selfish, the heavenly tribulation thunder would not exist. How could it secretly pass on an inheritance to Zhuo Xiaonian at such a time? This change had really overturned Zhuo Changlu's current understanding. "It's absolutely true," Wu Yuding said with certainty. "Little Nianer has begun to cultivate that inheritance. If she succeeds, our son will have to wait a long time to get married. The wedding night will be even more distant. Unless Nian goes easy. There's no need to think about that. Nian will definitely throw the game." Zhuo Changlu shook his head and said, "The inheritance of the heavenly tribulation. This. Ting Er, do you believe in such a thing?" "Bullshit. Of course I don't believe it. But the truth has already happened, and it happened to our Mississippi. What's the use of believing it or not?" Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. I will. Zhuo Changlu frowned and racked his brains. How could such a thing happen? He lowered his head and thought for a long time before saying, "Do you think there's another possibility? That inheritance has long been sealed in the depths of Xiao Nian's memory. That lightning tribulation was actually just removing the seal for her." Wu Yuding said in horror, That's not impossible. No, it's still not right. Zhuo Changlu said, "When we picked up little Nianer, we carefully checked her body. There was absolutely no seal on her body. She was just an ordinary human baby girl. At least in our opinion, that's what she looked like. Yes, we confirmed it again and again. Now that I think about it, such a cute child without any swaddling clothes and only a few feathers. Later on, 99 astral souls, the most talented. When she grew up, naturally, the phoenix vein followed her." You mean, why didn't others pick her up, but we picked her up? Maybe it's not because she was too lucky. Maybe it's because we were too lucky. Or maybe it's because of our luck. Wu Yuding looked at Zhuo Changlu with probing eyes. Yes. Both the husband and wife frowned. Although they didn't say it out loud, it was clear that the two of them were suspecting the same thing. That was, Zhuo Xiaonian was a descendant of the ancient Phoenix clan. But as the possibilities were denied one by one, it made this matter even more confusing. If Nianer is really a descendant of the ancient Phoenix clan, how could she be a human baby when she was born? Zhuo Changlu's tone was full of doubts. I can't guess this. And if this really involves the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix clan, then unless it's a trap set up by a saint, it's impossible to hide it from us, let alone for so long. But would a saint set up such a trap? Besides, the ancient Phoenix clan doesn't seem to have a saint first-rate supreme being, right? The more you say, the more I can't figure it out. This feeling is getting thicker and thicker. Zhuo Changlu thought for a long time and smiled calmly. Besides, whether it's true or not, even if it's a trap set up by a saint, even if it's really the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix clan, she's still our precious daughter, our precious treasure. Even if the heavenly Tao were to jump out, it wouldn't be able to deny it. Wu Yuding finally smiled and said, "That's right. Her origin is not important." "What does her origin have to do with us?" "That's right, don't worry." Zhuo Changlu smiled and patted Wu Yuding's shoulder. "Leave everything to me. No one can take our daughter away from us. Xiao Duo's wife, no one can take her away." Wu Yuding also put down her worries and said, "Of course." After listening to Zhuo Changlu's words, Wu Yuding also felt enlightened. Yes, no matter what her identity was, Zhuo Xiaonian was now her daughter and her daughter-in-law. No matter what happened in the future, this was a fact that could not be changed. Since that was the case, what was there to doubt, guess, and fear? I understand. Then I'll go out and drink. I haven't had a chance to get drunk in a long time. You too should drink less. Sigh, with our cultivation and alcohol tolerance, it's hard to get drunk. Everyone knows this. Ha! You won't get drunk, but you'll still spew out a stench from your pores. You don't mind, but I do. If his grandfather stinks, then so be it. No one cares anyway. If you stink, then stay far away from me. Don't blame me for telling you first. In the wee hours of the morning, Zhuo Xiaoduo woke up slowly. As soon as he opened his eyes, he felt as light as a feather, as if he was about to fly. Before he opened his eyes, he was already shouting, "Nian Mao, I'm flying. Let's see where you can run to now." As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Wu Yuding's half-smiling face. "Doggy, you've really grown up. You only remember your wife and forgot about your mother. How could that be?" Zhuo Xiaoduo put on a fawning smile. "Mom, I keep dreaming about you." This wasn't a lie. In this night's illusion, the most tragic scene was this family. For his parents and Zhuo Xiaonian, Zhuo Xiaoduo probably died more than 10,000 times in this night. Now that he had woken up, he felt pain all over his body, especially his heart and head. His head had been smashed countless times in one night, and his heart had been pierced through countless times. All the bones in his body had been disassembled, and disassembled. Now that he thought about it, he still had lingering fears. Now that he woke up and saw his mother's smiling face, Zhuo Xiaoduo was very satisfied. It was great. It was great to be alive. Ha ha ha. Where's my dad and Nian Mao? Zhuo Xiaoduo threw off the blanket and ran out. Stop! Wu Yuding shouted, Brat, you're still naked. Oh. Zhuo Xiaoduo hurriedly went back into the blanket naked and put on his pants under the blanket. You're actually shy in front of your mother. Wu Yuding said with disdain, since you were young, I didn't even want to look at your naked butt. Weren't you and your sister raised by your mother's feces and urine? Ugh, Mom, can you change that idiom of yours? It's too damaging to your graceful and elegant demeanor. It'll make people misunderstand our food. Zhuo Xiaoduo chuckled under the blanket. He put on his pants, stood up, put on his coat, and looked at himself in the mirror. He sighed and said, every time I become bald, I become stronger. If you want to become stronger, you have to go bald first. There's no cure for this. Wu Yuding laughed. Zhuo Xiaoduo wasn't wrong at all. Due to his cultivation method, every time he broke through, he would go bald. Not even a blade of grass would grow on his body, and not a single strand of hair would be left. After becoming bald, he really did become stronger. So strong that it was unimaginable. You're flying. You've completely transcended mortality. How do you feel? Wu Yuding asked. Not much. I just feel like beating up Nian Mao is like playing with me now, Zhuo Xiaoduo said smugly. Ha! Wu Yuding chuckled but did not say anything. With her eyesight, she could naturally see that Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian's strength were about the same. Zhuo Xiaonian had broken through to the Skysoar realm first, and her cultivation was about to reach the intermediate stage of the Skysoar realm, but she was not there yet. Zhuo Xiaoduo, on the other hand, was at the beginner stage of the Skysoar realm. He had just broken through and had not had the time to accumulate his foundation, so his foundation was not solid yet. However, the difference between the two's strength was negligible. Although the difference in strength between beginner and intermediate stage of the Skysoar realm was like heaven and earth, Zhuo Xiaoduo suppressed his cultivation level more than Zhuo Xiaonian. For some cultivation levels, he suppressed his cultivation level more than Zhuo Xiaonian. For some cultivation levels, he suppressed his cultivation level several times more. With this accumulation, the gap between the two was narrowing bit by bit. In this way, the actual gap between them was not much. If they were to fight to the death, Zhuo Xiaoduo's strength might even be above Zhuo Xiaonian's. If they were to fight to the death, the result would be Zhuo Xiaonian dying, while Zhuo Xiaoduo would at most suffer some internal injuries. It would not be life-threatening. Wu Yuding was well aware of this point. But if it was just a spar between the two of them. If the result was reversed, Zhuo Xiaoduo would definitely be defeated without a doubt. He would definitely not be able to defeat Zhuo Xiaonian. This was also a matter without any suspense. Zhuo Xiaoduo knew how to use blades, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, and forks. He was also proficient in using hidden weapons. However, his main focus was his hammer. If he were to fight Zhuo Xiaonian, Zhuo Xiaoduo's hammer would be a burden instead. He did not dare to use it, nor was he willing to use it. This included his hidden weapons. When he used the hexagram, it would definitely result in death. His injuries were not healed yet, so he did not dare to use it. As for his other hidden weapons, they would not even tickle Zhuo Xiaonian if they hit her. There was also his Flaming Sun Sutra, Elemental Fire Technique, and Zhu Rong's Primordial Fire. He could not use any of them, nor did he dare to use them. What if he really burned Zhuo Xiaonian's hair? There was no need to burn it. Even if it was just a burn. Would he still be able to live? Would he still want to recover? Chapter 1194. On a deeper level, Zhuo Xiaoduo had so many powerful weapons. Who would dare to use them? The god-slaying spear was so powerful. Who would dare to use it? The black and white gourd boosted their combat prowess by a large margin. Without the 9-9 cat hammer, the two of them were useless. The three-legged golden crow was ignored. The reason was the same. What else did Zhuo Xiaoduo have? The spirit cat sword. However, when it came to swords, Zhuo Xiaonian had always been very simple-minded. She only had one sword. Whether it was sparring or a battle to the death, she only had one sword. She had a perfect grasp of the situation and would never make any mistakes. In this aspect alone, Zhuo Xiaoduo was no match for her. Zhuo Xiaoduo wanted to beat Zhuo Xiaonian with just the nimble cat sword when he didn't dare to use so many of his trump cards. That was simply a pipe dream. Even if Zhuo Xiaoduo maintained this level of suppression until he reached the Dao integration stage, he wouldn't dare to say that he could defeat the current Zhuo Xiaonian, let alone the fact that he was only at the ascension stage. Wu Yuding could only sigh in her heart as she looked at the eager Zhuo Xiaoduo. Son, you're thinking too much. If you can really defeat her and put it into action, you won't even be able to kiss her, let alone consummate the marriage. Oh right, should I tell Nian, that she has received a new inheritance from the Phoenix tribe and is about to become more powerful? Forget it, I don't want to discourage him too much. I still want to hold a grandson. I support you. Wu Yuding encouraged her son and said, go beat her up. I don't believe that after being bullied by her for so long, you can't beat a girl even if you're so strong. Zhuo Xiaoduo was in high spirits. He strode out of the room with his head held high. He was going to fly. Not only did he have to beat up Nian Nian, but he also had to deal with the problem of sex. All of these things had to be solved. Wu Yuding followed him out the door. The battle between a cat and a dog of the ascension stage was a must-watch. Especially after this kid beat up Nian Mao, he had to watch the show. When the Tower of Emptiness reopened, Li Chenglong and the others appeared in the courtyard. Before they could say anything, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Tribulation clouds flew over. In an instant, the entire sky of Shangjing was filled with tribulation clouds. The power of heaven and earth overflowed. Zhuo Changlu and the others instantly understood and stomped their feet. This is bad. This time, it was really bad. Previously, he had been so focused on Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation that he did not realize that these little fellows were also on the verge of breaking through. Although it had only been a little more than a night in the space exterminating pagoda. For these little guys, they had been cultivating in Zhuo Xiaoduo's space exterminating pagoda for 2 to 3 months. The ones he saw last night were still a bunch of little fellows at the peak of origin profound. The ones that rushed out this morning were shockingly a bunch of ascendant fairies. And a bunch of ascendant fairies who had not been baptized by the tribulation. These little fellows were different from Zhuo Xiaonian. Zhuo Xiaonian had broken through directly and did not experience the tribulation because Zhuo Xiaoduo had taken the tribulation for her. However, these little fellows did not have anyone to take the tribulation for them. Zhuo Zhanglu, Lei Zhangtian, and the other peerless experts couldn't help but be dumbfounded at this moment. There was no time to explain. At this moment, the tribulation eye in the sky had already formed, and the first tribulation lightning was about to strike. Zhuo Changlu cursed inwardly. With a wave of his sleeve, he had already swept up the 12 people and rushed toward the broken soul cliff before the tribulation lightning struck. Along the way, Zhuo Changlu did not slack at all. He directly used his supra-cultivation and profound words to instill everything into the 12 little fellows' minds. Then, he hurriedly told them to prepare their most powerful defenses and their best weapons. Then, he gave them a portion of the many precious treasures he had accumulated, especially those that could take effect immediately and heal quickly. Calm down, you must calm down. Your cultivation is far superior to ordinary ascendant fairies. A ascendant heavenly tribulation is nothing to you. By the time Zhuo Changlu put them down, the first tribulation lightning had already struck. At this moment, Zhuo Changlu did not have the time to leave the area covered by the tribulation clouds. The first tribulation lightning directly smashed down on Zhuo Changlu's head, clearly intending to punish him. If Zhuo Changlu did not deal with it properly, he would be considered a part of this tribulation lightning. Then, whether Zhuo Changlu would live or die was still uncertain. However, Li Chenglong and the other 12 people would definitely die without a doubt. Great soul shift! Zhuo Changlu shouted. Then, he focused all his attention on the tribulation eye in the sky. In order to avoid suffering, I specially sent these 12 people here to undergo the tribulation. I hope that the heavenly Tao will be lenient with this act of kindness. Then, Zhuo Changlu himself had already moved hundreds of miles away. The Great Soul Shift was an advanced technique of the Tianyuan escape technique. When executed by Zhuo Changlu, its effect was at least 100 times better than that of Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian. Even the heavenly tribulation lightning could not catch up to him. Boom boom boom. The heavenly Tao tribulation thunder chased after Zhuo Zhanglu relentlessly for a few more times, directly driving him out of the range of the heavenly tribulation. After that, it performed the greater soul shift 3 times in a row before it finally gave up. Then, Li Chenglong and the others, who had just realized what was going on, saw the densely packed tribulation eyes in the sky. Then, they heard a thunderclap and many tribulation lightning bolts struck down at the same time. Mommy! This scene was simply too shocking. Li Chenglong and the others were mostly from small places. The rest of them did not have a Skysoar realm cultivator in their family. Therefore, they knew very little about the so-called extraordinary tribulation lightning of Skysoar realm cultivators. Moreover, their progress was too fast. First, they obtained the sacred heart cleansing fruit and reached the peak of the profound returning realm. Then, Zhuo Xiaoduo generously lent them the spatial annihilation pagoda for their cultivation. However, this caused them to miss a deeper understanding of the truth of the tribulation lightning of Skysoar realm cultivators. Previously, Zhuo Xiaonian's breakthrough to the Skysoar realm gave them a relatively false understanding, which led them to think that the spatial annihilation pagoda could be immune to the tribulation lightning. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation lightning was far more powerful than that of ordinary Skysoar realm cultivators. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were afraid that they would develop an inner demon while observing Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation lightning, which would make it difficult for them to make any further progress. Therefore, they directly forbade them from observing Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation. All of this caused the current awkwardness. Li Chenglong and the others had seen such a shocking scene before. Although they cried out in surprise, they did not slack off and did their best to deal with the tribulation lightning. However, the tribulation lightning was still the main performer in this turmoil. It bombarded wildly and caused a great commotion. Boom 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 boom. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was deafening. Wu Yuding, Lei Changtian, Bai Yunduo, Zhuo Xiaoduo, and Zhuo Xiaonian also rushed to the left side to protect them. However, Zhuo Zhanglu and the other 3 almighties had black lines running down their foreheads. They had really neglected this matter. They had been so focused on Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation that they could not afford to be distracted by other things. This had led to the current awkward situation. They could not shirk this responsibility no matter how hard they tried. At the bottom of the death cliff. That demonic beast consumed a large amount of essence energy to heal its injuries, but its injuries had just recovered by more than half when its entire body suddenly stiffened. A familiar yet terrifying feeling arose spontaneously, and its 2 large eyeballs were instantly filled with tears. Fuck. It's happening again. It's happening again. And this time, it's happening in a group. This is the first time I've heard of people going through tribulation in groups. Do you think you're not dying fast enough? But can't you choose another place to reserve? Why am I the only one who can cause trouble? Where is your conscience? Where is the heavenly Tao? Where is the heavenly Tao? However, it was a foregone conclusion that this place would become a land of trouble. The demonic beasts who knew how powerful they were immediately moved. They picked up the big cocoon and drilled down for a full 300 miles. Why is the heartbeat in the big cocoon getting louder and louder? It seems to be aware of the thunder tribulation outside and is very interested in it. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian were at the periphery, stretching their necks to look at the center point. Then Zhuo Xiaoduo saw Zhuo Xiaonian take out her cell phone with familiarity. This operation. There's actually such an operation. Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes widened. He was excited to see this and was eager to give it a try. However, the next moment, Zhuo Xiaonian put away her cell phone and said calmly, "There's nothing interesting about this wave. It's not worth recording." Nothing interesting. Not worth recording. Look at how knowledgeable you are. This is a tribulation. You say there's nothing interesting about such a big scene and it's not worth recording? Isn't that a bit too much? Then what's worth recording? Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. Looking at Li Chenglong and the others who were struggling under the thunder tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo sighed. Swollen, how many evil things have these people done? The thunder tribulation is chasing after them. TSK. As their boss, I'm sincerely ashamed of their actions. I'm ashamed to be associated with them. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Xiaonian both turned to look at him, their eyes shining with curiosity. This little dog really dares to say something like that. It seems like you don't remember that you were struck by lightning just now, and it was much more powerful than this. How could he have the nerve to say such righteous and upright words? How can a person be so shameless? However, on second thought, this was just Zhuo Xiaoduo's habitual attitude. The mother and daughter had long been used to it, so they were not surprised. It was just a normal performance. What was there to complain about? However, when the fourth thunder tribulation struck, Zhuo Changlu, who had been paying attention to the thunder tribulation, couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Under the thick clouds, the thunder tribulation continued to erupt and descend. Starlight shone down, and gradually converged to form a beam of light. Although the beam of light wasn't shining in the direction of the heavenly tribulation, but in another direction, it shouldn't be something that was out of his imagination. At this critical juncture, a total of 12 Skysoar cultivators were undergoing the thunder tribulation together. This was a huge matter. Even if there were any unforeseen circumstances, it should be delayed or made way. How could there be starlight shining down? Could it be that there was an unforeseen event that was comparable to or even greater than 12 Skysoars undergoing the thunder tribulation together? With a thought, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding immediately exchanged their positions as guardians. Then, he released a doppelganger that flashed in the direction of Shangjing City. Duo. Zhuo Changlu continued to resist the evil karma that was surging in all directions, shattering them one by one. At the same time, he said in a deep voice, "Use the aura gazing technique to observe the starlight in the sky. See if there's anything strange." Although Zhuo Changlu's cultivation was exceedingly high, he had his own specialization. He only knew a little about the aura gazing technique. If it was related to himself or his blood relatives, he could use his own aura to sense it. However, now that there was a sudden change, it was not something he could understand. After being reminded, Zhuo Xiaoduo looked up at the sky. Only then did he realize that there were starlight shining down from above the thick clouds, and it had already formed into a considerable number. 9 beams of starlight, like 9 sharp arrows piercing through the clouds, shot straight to the southeast, which was as far as the eye could see. Zhuo Xiaoduo concentrated on circulating his aura and used the aura gazing technique. When he looked as far as the eye could see, his heart immediately trembled. This is demonic aura. Zhuo Xiaoduo murmured, "Dad, from the looks of it, the Big Dipper stars are gathering." The Star Lords are connecting with the Star Lords' constellations to do something. It's very likely that a battle is about to happen. Zhuo Chenglu's pupils shrank. Are you sure? I'm sure. Zhuo Xiaoduo said, the constellations in the sky have already formed a killing array. Endless demonic aura is surging. I'm afraid that the other party has been preparing for this for a long time. Oh no, it's starting to pour out now. Oh no. Zhuo Chenglu turned his head to look at the field with a solemn expression. Li Chenglong and the other juniors were only halfway through their heavenly tribulations. They had already missed the best opportunity. Moreover, because the 12 of them were working together to pass the heavenly tribulations, the scale and power of the heavenly tribulations had increased a lot. If he left at this moment, there would definitely be a gap in the stable defense line formed by the four sides. The turbulent evil thoughts would pour in, and the group of children would be invaded by the inner demons. At least 3 or 4 of them would die under the heavenly tribulations. This timing is really bad. I can't advance or retreat. If the current situation was set up by someone with intentions for this moment, then I have to reevaluate. The level of intelligence of the other party, the control of the mind, is really shocking and horrifying. Zhuo Chenglu was speechless. Fortunately, he had reacted to the situation just now and sent a clone to look for Dongfang Zhenyang. Therefore, he hurriedly sent a message over. Let Yu Dongtian patrol the southeast. Although this was what he said and the arrangements were made, Zhuo Chenglu knew in his heart that no matter if it was Yu Dongtian or Dongfang Zhenyang, by the time they arrived, it would be too late. The other party's arrangements would have been completed, and their goal would have been achieved. The combination of the Big Dipper, the killing array set up by the Celestial Star Lord, and the use of the power of the stars to kill the strong enemies. A moment was enough. However, they chose to take action today. What a good plan. The other party might also have a powerful person manipulating the situation. Zhuo Chenglu's expression was heavy. He knew that today, he had lost. In Shangjing City. When Zhuo Chenglu's clone arrived, Yu Dongtian was already standing in Dongfang Zhenyang's house. Something big has happened. Dongfang Zhenyang, it's in the southeast direction, on the way to Phoenix City. Be careful of the tall mountains and dense forests along the way. Yu Dongtian did not say anything and immediately tore the space apart. He hoped that it was not too late to mend the pen after the sheep were lost. Zhuo Chenglu glanced and said, You and Nanjing Qian go and take a look too. It's always good to have more helpers. Yes. The two of them did not hesitate and disappeared in a flash. In the sky, the beam of light had begun to shrink and was about to disappear. It was obvious that the other party's plan had come to an end. However, above the clouds, the Big Dipper was still shining brightly. The demonic aura was still thick and heavy. As it flickered, it seemed to be summoning something. With the ancestral land as the foundation, gather the Star Battle Alliance, exhale the chi of heaven and earth, draw back the heavens. A strange language that no one in the mortal world could understand, and a mysterious summoning that no one could hear. Spread far and wide, shaking in the starry sky. In the distant starry sky. A demonic shadow that covered the sky suddenly appeared. The god-slaying spear circled back and forth. Over there. Yu Dongtian's body suddenly landed on the white dragon slope. As far as the eye could see, he could not help but tremble. The entire white dragon slope had been reduced to ruins. The original height had been cut down by more than 700 meters. Within the range of hundreds of miles, there were countless corpses lying on the ground. There was not a single living person. The people from the Yu family were all killed here. There were also the people from the Lu family, the Nian family. Thousands of people, thousands of masters, were all lying on the ground quietly. Limbs and heads were all over the ground. Within the range of hundreds of miles, it was all messed up and destroyed by the power of divine thoughts. Every pit symbolized the tyrannical power of the heavenly star, and it was extremely rampant. None of the Xiuzhe that had died here had been mediocre, but they had all been slaughtered here. Yu Dongtian quickly circled around. He carefully looked at the traces left behind. Some places were clearly the ambush places of the various families. The traces were obvious and could be seen at a glance. In other words, they were waiting here to ambush someone. But unexpectedly, they were used by the other party. There were no traces of the enemy left at the scene. There were only some scattered pieces of flesh. The aura that they emitted was completely different from the people here. Yu Dongtian made a prompt decision. With a wave of his hands, he had already compressed the air within hundreds of miles. Then, he suddenly spread out his divine sense. He jumped up and flew to a height of thousands of feet. Then, he started to trace according to the aura. But what he saw was only fragments that were cut into pieces by the starlight. He could not find anything valuable at all. No Alliance Star Sect. Yu Dongtian shouted angrily, I will definitely uproot all of you and destroy all of you. Dongfang Zhengyang and Nanjing Qian, who arrived a little later, quickly landed. Right, Heavenly King, what's the situation? Big Dipper killing formation. Yu Dongtian gritted his teeth and said coldly, those people who were waiting to ambush the Wang family's people who were digging the graves in Phoenix City. Those people. I don't know why they were all lured here. The other party set up the Big Dipper killing formation here and killed them all. None of them survived. Nanjing Qian and Dongfang Zhengyang were both shocked. Then, Dongfang Zhengyang flew up to the sky to observe the aura. Nanjing Qian stayed on the ground to search. Yu Dongtian also used his divine sense to search the sky and earth. The three of them worked for a long time, but they still could not find any clues. How could the other party be so well prepared? And they were able to grasp the timing so well. If this was a plan, the person who set this up must be very skilled. Dongfang Zhengyang was shocked. And they retreated in such a timely manner. Everything shows that the other party planned before acting. Every step and every detail was within their calculations. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. But how did the other party predict this? It's normal for a wise man to plan before acting, but a wise man isn't a god. He's just trying to avoid mistakes to the greatest extent. It's hard to avoid mistakes. There were thousands of people here, but not a single fish escaped the net. Isn't this too terrifying? One had to know that the breakthrough of Li Chenglong and the rest was overlooked by even Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Changlu, let alone Yu Dongtian. It was purely a coincidence. In other words, even if the other party made use of this incident, there was no possibility that there was a mole on their side. That was why Dongfang Zhengyang used the word predict. There must be another reason. Lock down Shang Jing immediately. Dongfang Zhengyang said. All right. Yu Dongtian immediately gave the order. He didn't ask why, because he knew that Dongfang Zhengyang must have his reasons. The Big Dipper fatal array can't be established easily. The Star Lord in charge of the array will suffer different degrees of recoil every time it's activated. He might be blinded, deaf, unable to recognize smells, or lose all his cultivation. And these signs of sensory abnormalities and temporary loss of cultivation will last for at least 2 to 3 days. This is the only clue left for us at the moment. Whether or not we can find these people within these 2 to 3 days will be the key. I've already given the order. Also, the Wang family must have something to do with this. There's no doubt about it, Yu Dongtian said coldly. The Wang family? I don't think so. Dongfang Zhengyang smiled bitterly. Of course, the Wang family is related to this, but they couldn't have been the decision-maker. That's for sure. Whoever organized such a scheme wouldn't have let their important pawns know so much. Pawns. Nanjing Qian felt a bit dizzy. The Wang family has been around for a long time. No matter how degenerate they are, they wouldn't be willing to be a pawn, would they? Or an abandoned pawn? It's not necessarily impossible. Humans have weaknesses as long as they want something. Besides, what the Wang family wants isn't trivial. As long as we target their weaknesses and lure them into the trap, they will naturally be led by the nose until the end. Dongfang Zhengyang sneered and said, "Let's not talk about how they are scheming against them. In fact, if I want to do something according to their mentality, I can easily make them take the bait. Even if I want to make them fall into eternal damnation, and all their families will be wiped out, it is just a plan, a trap. It's too easy to set up a trap for such a family that is proud of its glory but doesn't want to make progress. They only want their ancestors to make contributions so that they can reign supreme for generations to come." Yu Dongtian scratched his nose. Why did he feel uncomfortable when he heard that? Was he talking about the Yu family? Well, it shouldn't be. Because the Dongfang family had already shown signs of this before the reorganization. Was this empathy? Or was it because they were in the same boat? Shit, now was not the time to care about this. Then what should we do now? Now it's up to whether we can enter this trap and whether we have the ability to intervene. Dongfang Zhengyang used the aura observation technique and looked at the fate of heaven and earth. He murmured, "This trap actually has a limit." You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.